You had a busy day today. Hold me closer, tiny dancer. Count the headlights on the highway. Lay me down in sheets of linen. You had a busy day today. Blue jean baby, LA lady, seamstress for the band, pretty eyed, pirate smile. Oh, you're marrying the music man. Ballerina, oh, you must have seen her dancing in the sand. Now she's in me, always with me, tiny dancer in my head. Oh, how it feels so real, lying here with no one near on you. And you can hear me when I say softly, slowly. Hold me closer, tiny dancer. Count the headlights on the highway. Lay me down in sheets of linen. You had a busy day today. Hold me closer, tiny dancer. Count the headlights on the highway. Lay me down in sheets of linen. You had a busy day today. Anymore, oh, not anymore. Anymore. Ooh.
Stay connected through The Link each morning on Breeze 93.9 FM. Stay connected through The Link. Each morning on Breeze 93.9 FM.
This one's going out to that south side. Team Caps. She wakes up early every morning. Colors of blue and green. Hills ascending into mountains. Who would ever want to leave? And at the end of every day I lay my head and say, there ain't no way I'm ever gonna leave you, Melissa. The heart is where the home, my heart will always be with you, Melissa. Promise when I leave I'll be coming back real soon, Melissa. I don't wanna go, but I gotta hit the road, Melissa. I'll be coming home to you. I'll be coming home to you. I'll be coming home to you. She's always quiet in the morning. She speaks the loudest in my dreams. I feel safe inside the waters. I keep a promise by the sea. And at the end of every day I lay my head and say, there ain't no way I'm ever gonna leave you, Melissa. The heart is where the home, my heart will always be with you. Promise when I leave I'll be coming back real soon, Melissa. I don't wanna go, but I gotta hit the road, Melissa. I'll be coming home to you. I'll be coming home to you. I'll be coming home to you. I'll be coming home. there ain't no way I'm ever gonna leave you. Molesto, the heart is where the home, my heart will always be with you. Molesto, promise when I leave I'll be coming back real soon. Molesto, I don't wanna go, but I gotta hit the road. Molesto, I'll be coming home to you. I'll be coming home to you. He's got a tab upon his shoulder and a name upon his chest. A country that he serves and an island he defends. Has a people that he's proud of and a family that he loves. And he hopes they understand why he does what he does. See, he's a warrior in a war that our country fights today. But what they don't understand are the decisions that he's made. And this warrior cries almost every other day, just knowing what he's done and all the lives he had to take. So would you hear when a warrior cries? Would you know what he has seen through his eyes? Would you walk in the boots he has worn and stay true to the oath in which he has sworn? So would you hear when a warrior cries? Would you know what he has seen through his eyes? Would you walk in the boots he has worn and stay true to the oath in which he has sworn? Yeah. And at night when he cries, he wipes the tears from his eyes. He walks out of the room so that he doesn't wake his wife. And he walks out to his children and reminded once again that he does what he does and he does it all for them. So would you hear when a warrior cries? Would you know what he has seen through his eyes? Would you walk in the boots he has worn and stay true to the oath in which he has sworn? Would you know when a warrior cries? Would you know what he has seen through his eyes? Would you walk in the boots he has worn and stay true to the oath in which he has sworn? Yeah, yeah. And stay true to the oath he has sworn. Yeah. And stay true to the oath they have sworn.
Rosinha uli die sombren zelten meg, et zu te saluda antes hum niga Radzaudz and Malak estrezas durante em todo imemu a nogi distância como gupugi palu Zaniman Malak Guafi con una sughiairi preba tu la notte nai banderata gaigi pues atten fanni bandera co
Esta pagua pumalalapai Giluk tanu man libri Sentamiti man ko badi yes, yes. Ibanderang Mohan, yes, 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 yes, yes. Ibanderang Mohan, yeah. Mastakilu, Hinasoku, Kinini Mastakalu, Ikurason, Then Imasfiku, Nanina Sinyaku, Ufresin Maisatu, Parabapute, Then Defendi, Hinengi, Kutura, Lengwahi. Tamoru, yes, yes, yes. Tanitano Tamoru, yes, yes, yes. Ni ire shaku, la la la. Did it to get into stop that? 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 It's the who, what be my ihilo. Tani Biblia, Ibanderang, Ibanderang Mohan, yes, yes, yes. 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 Ibanderang Mohan, yeah.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, my friend.
Very, very nice.
Thank you. All right, it is Hump Day. Wednesday. Yeah. Where are you at? Okay. Hi. Good morning.
Normally it's you who forgets what day of the week. Yeah, it's Wednesday today.
It's Wednesday. It's still 2022, guys. 600 or 629. How many cases do we have last night, Jay?
The number
637.
637.
Right,
That's an all-time high, up from the previous high of 516. Worth noting, though, we also had an all-time high of number of people tested. It was better than 2,700. And fortunately, thank the good Lord, the number of hospitalizations only increased by 1. But
Right.
of course, we are keeping those who had been admitted to the hospital with COVID-19 always in our thoughts.
Good morning, Jay. So what was that test positivity rate?
23%.
23. What the?
Imagine, we've talked about this before.
What?
The use case that I always bring up, right, is imagine if you're one of the guards people, or like a nurse that's working at the TGen testing site. Again, available from 8 to 12, 1 to 3, Monday through Saturday. You need to go to tinyurl.com/COVID-stops-me to make an appointment. That's a required condition, right? But imagine if you're there and you can have no more than 4 people per car. Imagine that, Chris, if you realize that every 4th person you test is going to pop positive.
Right, yeah.
That'll get your head on straight for galvanizing your mission, I would think.
I went to the TGen testing site yesterday just to kind of talk with people. I did bring my phone. I didn't shoot any video. I just wanted to kind of go and just chat with people waiting in line. And so I went yesterday and I talked to a bunch of people who were in the walk-in line. And so you guys know there's appointment only, and then the walk-ins, they get the unvaccinated treatment, and they have to they got to wait, right, until after all, everybody who knows how to work the internet and get an appointment is done. And so a lot of the people I was talking to who were waiting in line were symptomatic. They were sick, and they did not look happy. You can really just see the weight of this pandemic weighing on them. There was one guy who wasn't feeling good. He's already been waiting in line for a couple hours. There's another man who took his wife because she wasn't feeling good. I talked to a family where the kid had tested positive, and now the family was going out to get tested. So the demand is huge, and it's crazy. So I went from TGen testing site, and I was kind of shook by just what I saw and what, I was talking to people about.
What time is this again?
This is around, I want to say around like around 3, 2:30.
So just around closing time, too.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway, I was so shook by it that I went to my doctor and I got tested yesterday.
Yeah, okay. Chris actually put that in our WhatsApp chat. He's like, "Oh, by the way, guys, I tested a negative." And
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
implicitly meaning I got tested.
Yeah.
But not saying at all like why. So what was the why? You just peace of mind?
I sneezed 4 times yesterday. God,
Okay.
don't laugh, guys. I was
No. Hey, no judgment, no shade, no hate. But because remember, everybody, if you need to get tested, you do not even need to be exhibiting any symptoms whatsoever.
Right, yeah.
If
But-
you are exhibiting symptoms, please prioritize getting tested. But you don't need to have the sniffles, have a stomach ache, have
Right,
body aches.
Yeah.
headache
So
whatsoever.
when I did go to the clinic, they asked me what the symptoms were, and they're like, "Okay, fine, yeah." So they didn't have a problem with me getting tested. But you know what I thought was pretty cool is I've been tested a few times, and normally they go way up into your brain.
Mm-hmm.
For this test, and I don't know if it's just how we're testing now, but they only did it like in the nostril area.
Okay,
they didn't go deep.
I was actually tested last Friday. I did a home test.
Okay.
And me when it comes to being like anally retentive, right? Like
Oh,
I read the
do I ever?
Yeah. I read the directions 8 times before I even took the testing kit out, and so I had that stuff memorized, right? It said only go a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, deep, and I was like, wow, I've been tested 6 times prior, and I'm assuming it was deeper than 3/4 of an inch.
Hope it was, man. So where'd you get your test?
One of the pharmacies,
Right.
One of the local pharmacies.
Okay, can we pop this up here, guys? One I just sent, the graphic I just sent. So this website, I know that we're going to have the governor on it later on with the KUAM News team. But there is a site that's going to be launching Wednesday. I want to say, hold on, let me check our chat here. I'll put it up. Yeah, this site goes live Wednesday, American time. All right, so Thursday, because Chamorros are from the future, Thursday, Chamorro Standard Time, this website will go live here. We did get the governor to speak on this. It's covidtest.gov. And this is part of President Biden's plan to get, what did he say, 500 million home tests into the homes of the Americans. We are American. There you go. PCR is the deep swab. Thank you. Liz Agagi, good morning. Facebook Live. Yes, 637 positive cases.
The area code of Dedido. One of them.
And we did have, there was about 600 reported over the weekend, too, if you kind of tally it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So again, test positivity rate of a little better than 23%. The previous high for single day positives was 516, and that was last week.
Right. And then if you remember when Nestor interviewed Dr. Nathaniel Berg, the chairman of the Physicians Advisory Group, he said, 600, yeah, it's okay. Remember, he's like 400, 500, we're going to be okay. So 600, are we going to be okay?
And everyone's also been saying, including you repeatedly, that, imagine if everybody on Guam that did need to be tested, or if everybody on Guam did get tested, how much higher that number would be. That number, you said what?
Well, right, there were
the day's testing.
Yesterday, there were about 4,000 active cases. We'll add another 700 or whatever to that. And then you look at the stats. What do they say? I think they say like 10%. The testing only captures 10% of what's in the total population. I've heard that statistic.
Wow.
So, yeah, obviously not everyone's going to get tested. There are probably a lot of people who are positive. GDOE's case count. Did they come out with that last night, Jay? We're getting John Fernandez this morning, guys. John Fernandez is coming on. I am seeing across social media, just with some of my friends here, Shortages at the school level, and I did talk to a couple teachers yesterday where they are seeing both faculty and staff shortages. I got to tell you guys, there's a restaurant that we do business with, and they have had a high number of positives, and they have had to shut down. I mean, they just closed. They closed for the day yesterday. I think they're going to be closed today. There's no telling when they're going to reopen, but basically, it's real, guys.
And this is a evolution, and that's probably like a poor choice of words on my part. But when we saw this in 2020, they would say that like if a business did have staffers that tested positive, they would close for like maybe 12 hours, maybe a full day, because they would do deep cleaning and disinfectant and sanitization, right? But now you're saying operationally they just don't have enough staff to field like an entire crew, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing that across industries.
Across industries, yeah, definitely. Even the media. There was a message someone sent me from one of the schools. This is from a staff at one of the public schools. We're stretched so thin at school, it's not even funny. We're running out of people to cover all the teachers that are getting sick. Half the class is out sick. We aren't being compensated for covering during our prep. Send help. Another message, this one from a teacher. Half of our teachers and students are out. There's no more coverage. The governor is going to wait till we have to shut down the schools due to a lack of staffing. And that's also been interesting, is that I think Liz Agagi here, she's over in Hawaii, saying that they had to close down a couple schools because of staff shortages, right? And some schools have migrated back to distance learning. Obviously, I know Superintendent John Fernandez is probably expecting and anticipating these types of questions this morning. But they've got a lot of stuff on their plate, from these student fights, these damn knucklehead kids. I swear to God, man.
You're talking about the one at Southern High.
I swear to God, I'd watch that and I just think, how did our children become so disrespectful? You know? And then I'm from the South. It's embarrassing. It is. And we've always had fighting. Yes, we've always had fighting. Yeah, okay. There's always been fighting. And, I don't know if you guys are one of these people who believe that, it's always the same, but it only seems like it's more because now people can film it. And so, according to Guam Department of Education Interim PIO Michelle Franquez, she's confirming that expulsion discussions are underway. Superintendent John Fernandez last week came out with a harshly worded letter that said, hey, if you guys fight, we're probably going to kick you out of school. And so she goes on to say, we do know that students involved in this fight at Southern High School were suspended, and that disciplinary action committee meetings are being scheduled. When you're considering disciplinary action, it's part of a due process for our students. So in the case of someone being considered for expulsion, they have the whole committee that meets and they make these decisions regarding these students' futures. But remember, kids, just don't put yourself in that situation. I mean, man.
That is very strongly worded from John, because if you know the history of like fights and and riots like in schools, he's always said, since he took the helm as the superintendent of GDOE, that he goes, when it comes to expelling students, we don't take that lightly, because a kid gets expelled at school, that follows you the rest of your life. You are really hamstringing somebody's ability to get a job, get a loan.
You know what to me is disturbing is when you watch these videos. And you see the parapros, the school aides, obviously trying to break things up, and then you see the kids totally disregarding their authority and just running in and punching people. It really, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, but it just really made me mad. It just made me upset at these kids, because high school, you're already at that age where you should know better. You know what I mean? Anyway, 640.
And just real quick, Chris, I believe the number that you were talking about how many of our fellow Guamanians are in active isolation right now. The number as of last night, 4,533.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that number's been shooting up in line with the number of positives each day.
Yeah, and then if you follow the isolation guidance, which they did kind of tweak out in the JIC release last night, we'll get into that. But going back to the shortages here, Glenn Lujan, who is a teacher with GDOE, he comments in here, GDOE central staff are being detailed to help assist out at the schools for supervision, right? And so I don't know, is that a factor with this Southern High, with these fights? Are we seeing shortages where it's kind of looking like DOC, where you got one officer for 8,000 inmates? Is that what kind of situation we're in? I don't know. We'll ask John Fernandez this morning, guys. But again, what we are seeing is a lot of shortages because people are positive and they're having to isolate, and then there's those who are getting into close contact with positives, and then they've got to isolate too. But I gotta say, I just have to say that I saw this coming. Jason saw this coming. You, Facebook Live, The Breeze, you guys saw this coming. It was all over the national media way before the governor ever chimed in on it and said, prepare as if a super typhoon is coming. And so when they talk about how they're preparing, you got to wonder, are we going to do anything at this point? Are you just telling us that it's acceptable to get 640 positive cases, which is going to turn into, I mean, a lot of these people are going to end up in the hospital. I know we're focusing on the hospitalizations, but they're climbing slowly. And I mean, again, I just got to go back to, we haven't done anything really other than encourage people to get their shots. And that's not really working out because now people are saying, oh, if you look at the hospitalization, the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, it's like 4-1 or something.
Yeah.
4-1 vaccinated.
Interesting that you brought that up because, like, when I was looking at the numbers last night, and remember I said at the top of the show, I was like, like by the grace of God, only one more hospitalization was admitted.
Yeah.
Again, our thoughts to those people who have been admitted. So I was wondering, is that the same people that are in the hospital, or is there some sort of like turnover where people released, where they discharged and everything? So if you remember yesterday, there were 25 people in the hospital, right? Yeah. 20 vaccinated, 5 unvaccinated, right? The numbers this morning from the JIC report last night, 18 vaccinated, 6 unvaccinated, 1 ineligible, and 1 unknown.
Okay.
So that does imply that it's a different set of people. So this,
right.
Like you said, this does mean that people are having to seek medical treatment.
Right. So I just want to, on the ineligible, I actually know a little about the situation.
Oh.
I got a message on Instagram from a friend. I don't want to say who they are unless, I mean, guys, if you're listening, let me know if it's okay and I will. But there's a couple friends of mine. Their 2-year-old child was the ineligible hospitalized one for over a day. They write in, GMH staff was amazing as always. There were a couple positives in the family, and one of the members of the family was boosted and exhibited no signs at all. But another child in the same family, 7 years old, unvaxxed, cough and cold symptoms only. And the family also wants to thank the passionate hospital staff, the emergency room, and pediatrics. So there you go. That sounds like some good news that the staff was there for the 2-year-old. And that's what I'm seeing. When I went to Teason yesterday, I was seeing families in cars. Where 2 are positive, and now we're sick, and now we're going to go get tested. So we're here. We're at this place where you read about in the States, the staffing shortages causing widespread shutdowns, and we're starting to see that in the private sector, in at least a couple restaurants and some other private businesses.
As you've noted, Sabrina's feeling the impacts of that directly. She's out there.
Yeah, so what's going on with Bree?
Oh,
there's
like
delays with the death. She couldn't get the death certificate for her dad, right?
For her dad until and that was a lengthy process, having to wait for that. And and now she's beginning, the process because your dad did, her dad is a former master sergeant retired master sergeant in the Air Force and everything. So they've got military affairs to take care of VA benefits, life insurance.
But Jay, what's interesting about the delays?
I can't even imagine what some people are going through.
I mean, and it's not necessarily because COVID. Like at first, I thought it's because there's all these COVID deaths and it's an X amount of number of deaths on top of the deaths that these people would normally have to deal with. But from what Bree was telling me, is a lot of people have COVID and they're not showing up at work, and so these government agencies are bare bones.
Yeah.
And we've heard a lot of things, guys, and I'm just disappointed that we're not getting the same level of information that we've gotten throughout this pandemic. We're hearing that there are a lot of police officers who have tested positive. We're hearing there's a lot of firefighters who have tested positive. We're hearing that there are government agencies where, a lot of people are positive, and we're seeing these staff shortages. We're seeing a GDOE. So what's the reaction going to be? I don't know. They had a press conference yesterday, but the media was not allowed to ask anything about COVID. It was just a big law enforcement pay raise party. That's what it looked like to me.
And again, it is a marked difference between like those government agencies that have like the customer service functions, or they interact. I mean, big difference between, and no disrespect, like Department of Chamorro Affairs or Bureau of Women's Affairs and like Rev and Tax or
definitely.
DOA.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering here. I mean, everyone looked like they were having a great time yesterday at the press conference. So I'm not sure if these shortages are affecting a lot of them. But we did get some comments, and I think people are really starting to like you checked out on us during the Delta surge, and I know that was probably meant to set a standard, but I don't think people are okay with this. I feel like there's a clamoring for people to hear more from the government leaders. We do have some comments in here. Jonah comments, the governor is not preparing for this COVID wave, but she is preparing for a political campaign. I saw the sign go up in Agotnia. Yeah, well, that's what it is. It is what it is, guys. It's 6:46, Wednesday, January 19th. Here's who's coming up on the show. The Superintendent John Fernandez. Dr. Hoa Wen is going to come. I mean, he's kind of freaking.
Interesting, well, and kind of apropos, interesting comment by Liz. Like, once again, she's always got the
she had some
smartest response. She goes, it's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That covers so much.
Yeah.
She was also talking about schools in Hawaii going back to some of them migrating over to distance learning. The female healthcare workers have been sent in. Certain schools have been shut down and gone into distance learning. Student attendance is down. Our new positive daily numbers in Hawaii have reached 6,000.
Wow.
Praying for all that are sick to recover and prayers for protection of those who have not tested positive. Yeah, and then there's also about 30 people in the isolation facility for the government of Guam. Now, this ISO fact is if you test positive and maybe you live in like a little apartment and you don't have like a separate bathroom or, you know, a room where you could really isolate, then you could go to this isolation facility. What I thought it was interesting, though, is there's nobody being held in quarantine right now at all. I know that I was talking to someone who had picked up someone at the airport last night, and I think there's about 3 flights that came in, 3 public health staff checking everybody, huge delays. And so it's, I don't know if, like, are they getting hit by a staff shortage, or is that just the business as usual? I'm not sure. Rosemary comments in here, with the increase of positives as well as hospitalizations, preparing for her political campaign location shows where her priorities are, and that's unfortunate. Okay, thank you, Facebook Live. Guys, good morning. The Breeze, we're KUAM-FM Agotnia, Guam. Let's go ahead and get into the news, shall we? From the KUAM News team with the very latest in for Sabrina Solis, Matt Tanani. Good morning, Jason Solis.
All right, good morning, Chris, and good morning, Guam. Of course, your link update brought to you each and every day proudly by our friends at Pacific Points. Make sure to register at Pacific Points because you can get really cool stuff, saves some money, and they got really good people working there, helping you out every single day. So thank you to our friends at Pacific Points. Do more, get more. All right. As Chris was saying, we are leading off the show with the fact that a new all-time high for Guam in terms of single-day positive cases, 637 new cases identified last night out of an equally all-time high number of 2,747 test samples analyzed on Monday. That is the test positivity rate, as we've been saying, of better than 23%. 26 people are hospitalized for COVID-19. That's 16 at GMH, 9 at the Guam Regional Medical City, and 1 person in Agana Heights at the U.S. Naval Hospital. 3 are in the ICU, 2 are in a ventilator. Both of those individuals are at GMH. 18 of those hospitalized are vaccinated, 6 are unvaccinated, and as we were alluded to, 1 is ineligible and 1 vaccination status is unknown. Make sure to check out our Instagram feed. Comment. Tomas Mangolenia put up the daily question, wants to know your thoughts on the vaccination status and everything going on with coronavirus right now. Please join the conversation on Instagram. All right, let's get into our stories. And right off the top, we hear from our friend Dr. Hoa Wen, the former chairman of the Physicians Advisory Group, and of course of American Medical Center, saying that the latest flowchart graph released a couple days ago that serves as a guidance to isolation and quarantining is much more confusing than previous instructions. Here it is.
As of January 9 of this year, residents were urged to follow a chart depicting what to do if they contract COVID-19 or are a close contact of one who has the virus. However, some residents are baffled at said chart, including the former head of the Governor's Physicians Advisory Group, Dr. Hoa Wen.
I look at it and it's kind of a hybrid on the CDC new guideline, but it's much more confusing, than I think that it's going to create a lot of confusion in the public and also confuse on the DPHS staff because it's kind of hard to understand.
Dr. Wen added that the chart released by Public Health still separates those who are vaccinated and unvaccinated unlike the isolation and quarantine protocols released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
The CDC guideline really doesn't distinguish between the different the vax and unvax, the fully vaccinated, the boosted. It's the same for everyone. Within the close contact, the quarantine, the isolation, and if you test positive, it's all the same on the CDC guideline. Doesn't matter what is your vaccination status is, and that should be. Just because, as we know now that Omicron really, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't know if you vax, unvax, or boosted. It affects you the same.
Dr. Wen believes that instead of having our own isolation and quarantine guidelines, we should adopt the one released by the CDC.
I think everyone should follow CDC guidelines. It creates a lot less confusion in the public, especially as we know in the past when you have a positive, there's a lot of confusion. Even you call the personnel at DPHS or at the clinic, even at the private clinic, sometimes we're giving conflict information on how many days you need to be isolated and how many days you need to be quarantined. So I think that everyone should be uniform and just use the CDC guideline. Everyone does, but you deviate from that, you create a lot of confusion in the public.
Daniel Perez reporting for Guam's News Network.
To utilities headlines we go now, as the Guam Power Authority does not get an exemption from the current law that bans construction of a power plant within the nearby vicinity of a school. Its entire master plan for future power generation could be in jeopardy, as Nestor Lecanto reports in this story.
It would have a devastating effect, says GPA General Manager John Beneventi, if they don't get an exemption to build a 41-megawatt diesel generator at their PD property. GPA says it's a critical backup unit for the planned 180-megawatt power plant in Ukudu that's central to the overall master plan. Beneventi made his case during a media briefing today, ahead of a public hearing on Thursday, when he will try to convince senators not only of the unit's critical need, but that it will pose little threat to the health of PD residents.
But as far as the emissions, we've been living with what we had for over 60 years. That is definitely going away beginning this year, beginning July, and by the end of this year, substantially again improve.
The law to ban generators within 1,500 feet of schools was passed in 1993 following the construction of the Macheche plant next to Juan M. Guerrero Elementary in Harmon. The proposed diesel generator in PD is within that banned proximity to Jose Rios Middle School. And while the law's been on the books for almost 30 years, the issue only surfaced a few months ago. It was raised by the lenders who are financing the construction by KEPCO. Graham Bota is GPA's legal counsel.
Without a change to the law, they will not be comfortable lending money to Guam Ukudu Power to build the 41 megawatts down in the PD area. And when they brought it up, obviously we submitted the legislation to the legislature in an effort to correct the concerns raised by Lenders Council.
If the exemption is not passed by the legislature or eventually signed into law by the governor, Beneventi says there's no formal plan B right now.
They don't want to allow us to put it there, then I guess I'll go back to the drawing board and see what happens. No? But right now, it's really, in my opinion, the best alternative and provides the most benefits to the ratepayers of Guam.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
To education news, we of course told you at the top of the show, and Chris went into it in exhaustive detail. Very disturbing story that the students involved in the riot that broke out at Southern High School last Friday may face expulsion. According to GDOE Interim Public Information Officer Michelle Franquez, she confirmed that expulsion discussions are underway. They said the students were suspended, and a disciplinary action committee meetings are being scheduled right now. The fight took place on the school grounds at the Santa Rita Sumay campus, and a modified lockdown was initiated last Tuesday morning to conduct a school-wide search. All right, we have a story now about law enforcement, because law enforcers on Guam have not received a pay raise since 2014, but to remedy this problem, an executive order was established by Governor Lulian Guerrero.
The Department of Administration conducted research regarding the government pay plan. 2014 was the last time law enforcement agencies received a pay raise. Other findings were just as troubling. Governor Lou Leon Guerrero.
GPD was actually 18% behind the national average, ultimately resulting in our low recruitment and retention within even our local retention enforcement agencies.
According to the governor, DOA recommended that the base salaries of law enforcement agencies increase by 18%. She believes that this pay increase is doable and has plans to shift costs around to accommodate it.
The revenue streams that we are going to, of course, be looking at is our ARP funds. And of course, when we take it down to the legislature, the good senator is reviewing his revenues based on what we have gotten in terms of EITC reimbursements, and of course, child tax credit, and of course, our very aggressive collections and our very committed cabinet members that work very hard to decrease their expenses, and also our efforts in shifting a lot of our costs over to federal funds and federal grants.
As Guam continues to lose its law enforcement personnel, their hope is that this pay increase will recruit more officers along with maintaining the personnel they already have. The increase will go into effect on January 30th of this year.
All right, let's go back to education news as the charter school, the Science is Fun and Awesome Learning Academy, is at risk of shutting down. Isaiah Uggan explains in this report.
According to the latest audit financial report released by the Office of Public Accountability, Science is Fun and Awesome Learning Academy Charter School, or SIFA, ended another fiscal year in a deficit, which may cause the school to shut down. The OPA reports that SIFA ended fiscal year 2021 in a deficit net position of $1.4 million. That's an improvement from the fiscal year 2020 deficit of $2.6 million, according to Ernst & Young LLP, who conducted the audit for the OPA. Although the deficit of the fiscal year is better from the prior year, Ernst & Young emphasized that because of the Partnership for Learning Support and Education through Lease Utilities, Supplies, and Services, or PLEASE contract, SIFA's operations will be affected. That's the 5-year contract with Eagle Land Holdings LLC, which expires in June of next year. However, Ernst & Young noted there were no deficiencies in the internal controls and compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements in 2 management letter comments. In addition to paying for the PLEASE contract, SIFA periodically receives cash advances from Eagle. In fiscal year 2021, Eagle advanced $98,000 for medical insurance. SIFA records the cash advances as payment due to the contractor. Meanwhile, the OPA report also indicated that SIFA's total revenues increased while total expenses decreased. SIFA's total revenues of $3.9 million about doubled compared to fiscal year 2020. Gov Guam appropriation made up 80% of the total revenues at $3.1 million, while the Education Stabilization Fund, or ESF, grant of $219,000 contributed 6%. SIFA counted the $544,000 discount from the PLEASE contract as another income, which contributed 14% to the total revenues. Gov Guam appropriated $2 million or $6,000 per enrollee in fiscal year 2021 for 325 students. However, with 346 enrollees in school year 2020 to 2021, SIFA received an additional $150 per pupil. SIFA's fiscal year 2021 total expenses decreased by $575,000 or 18% from $3.3 million in fiscal year 2020 to $2.7 million. Despite SIFA's total revenues being enough to cover expenses in fiscal year 2021, its financial obligation under the PLEASE contract remains larger than its cash inflows, causing its net position to stay in a deficit, which questions SIFA's ability to continue operating. Public Law 35-39 authorized SIFA to use unexpended funds to pay prior year obligations. The charter school requested an additional $1.1 million to pay the remaining obligations under the PLEASE contract. Although Gov Guam approved prior fiscal year appropriations to cover past obligations, the annual payment alone to the contractor is expensive. SIFA plans to renegotiate the PLEASE contract, request to forgive past debts, and seek additional funding from the legislature, grants, and local businesses to provide sufficient cash flows for operations. Reporting for Guam News Network, Guahusi Isaiah Uggan.
All right, Isaiah, thank you so much. Tyler Metanani has our next story about how the back to nature approach to food preparation is being highly considered right now and is a popular solution to the global supply chain shortage.
It's been years since we've been in the pandemic. Bare shelves in grocery stores and many restaurants unable to sell certain products due to shipping delays are showing the grim reality of our world today. But just because Guam is a small island in the Pacific doesn't necessarily mean we're stranded.
We've had a lot of people interested in hydroponics as a way to make their own food at the house.
Back to Nature is watering the confidence of new gardeners. India Sekiguchi, owner of the Tamuning store, explains the different methods for at-home farming.
We sell a couple different types of hydroponic systems. The most popular that we found is called the NFT system, which is made out of PVC piping. They're long pipes that are parallel to the ground, like a horizontal system.
And in those, you can grow successfully leafy green vegetables, ones that have simple root systems such as lettuce, kale, spinach, and bok choy. The best part is, you don't even need a large farming space.
You can actually just put these NFT systems on your balcony. All you need to have is some good sun exposure.
Now, as far as a water source, it's quite simple.
You need a reservoir of water, and then the tubes go down into the reservoir where your submersible water pump is. And then that's just going to basically be recycling the water through the system, feeding the plants. You need some nutrients, which of course we supply here too. You can go organic as far as the nutrients are concerned, so that there's no kind of fear of what you're putting into your body.
And before you know it, you're making your own stir fries at home with your own vegetables that you grew, and salads for days. There's also vertical farming and indoor farming, which allows people to have more control over plant environment.
And that's basically involving the use of sometimes a room in your house, but a lot of people will purchase like an indoor grow tent, and then they'll deck it out with lighting and exhaust systems. And in those kind of more controlled environments, you're really not that limited. You can grow whatever you would like to.
It can be quite daunting if you don't know where to start, but Sekiguchi says it's a gradual learning process that their staff is prepared to walk everyone through.
So you can walk in the door and say, "Hi, I'd like to start a garden, but I don't know anything about it. Help me." We'll talk about, your specific situation. Where do you live? What are you able? What type of time are you able to commit to it?
They've seen a popular rise in farming, particularly amongst the younger generation, giving sprouts of hope for a more sustainable Guam. For Guam's News Network, I'm Tyler Matanani.
All right, and of course, your link updates brought to you each and every day by our friends at Pacific Points, where you can do more and get more. And thank you to, of course, Pacific Points for bringing you Link Update here on the show. All right, another story is a feel-good story as Joe Duncan Charfus tells us about some of firefighters with community service in their heart as they helped out the Adult Dementia Daycare Center up in Jigo.
Tucked away in a quiet corner of Jigo is Guma Ginifli'i, an adult dementia daycare center. Open since 2005, the center caters to Manumku 60 years and older who are afflicted with dementia. Evelyn Cruz, the customer service supervisor for the center, says they have about 35 clients, but due to the pandemic, the numbers have been lower. Also, as a result of the pandemic, much of the landscaping at the center has been put on the back burner, especially the ponding basin near the front of the entrance, which was quite an eyesore.
This is overgrown, it's above the fence already. And then when you look, of course, it looks like a jungle. It's not supposed to be a jungle. It's supposed to be like a basin with nothing on it, but since the pandemic, everything is overgrown.
Responding to her plea for assistance were a handful of firefighters with the Guam Fire Department who showed up one day last week right after their shift ended. Firefighter John Anthony Munoz spearheaded the project, who said it all started with a simple WhatsApp message to some of his cycle mates.
There's probably about seven of us off-duty firefighters. We had some guys bring some chainsaws and some machetes. We cut down a few trees. Not really in search of the recognition. We're just doing it to help contribute back to our community. We think that that this is our island and we should definitely give back.
Muña adds that they will be back to finish what they started. As a way of saying thank you for their efforts, Cruz and her staff prepared pancit and pandesal.
I am just so thankful with the energy, the motivation from these guys coming from work to come here and clean it. And it took them, I think, almost, until 12 noon just to finish the work.
If you would like to make a donation of hand sanitizers, masks, or wipes to the center, or would like to know more information, you can call 671-922-1818 or 671-685-1925.
And finally this morning, bringing you a taste of home in our native language, here's Uncle King Concepcion with today's Chamorro News.
Buenos tardes to get some to be sa morning ni KUAM News. Presenta ni Familian Mito gi First Hawaiian Bank. Isweldo para un nuevo seno oficial laye, sa menos que 12 pesos ki hora, mas ya mafafana todo el tiempo y peligro siya na sitwasyon. Y para mafamali kasi na problema, establisa magahaga o ng eksekutibo, Departamento ng Administrasyon, sa makondukto research gi plano ni gobernamento para sweldo. I 2014 nasakan sa yuto mo biyahe na mahasay sweldo na 10 Enero gahan siya ng Fedsan Laye. Según el gobierno, merekomenda del Departamento de Administración na itinitun na apas STC na ahensya sa umahat sa hulog 18%. Ahong gobierno na sinya magahin matawag ST, destagwa plano niya para ginenmano mga STC na sa lapi. Sa polisiya mamara hilanero na STC na ahensya, maalaha mo ni gobernamentong guahan na STC na inasamento na apas o pambinensi mas nuebon hilanero matras loki masisisti STC mangay istagwihi. Ifetsa niyo para efektibo ST sa dia 30 Enero. Masasunto, kanatenta na persona sa manggayagi facility isolation ng gobernamentong Guahan sa pudi COVID i Bayview Hotel. Si Jamie Franco is Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense Acting Public Information Officer ang konfirma na 29 na kausang COVID manggayagi guihi ane man manai briefing di Emergency Operations Center giza Agania Heights. I gobernamentong Guahan sa nadanya isagang kunarentina sa isolation guihi na hotel. Lulang si Franco is natawad sa guihi makarentita na. Mapresente lugar para positibo siya na kausang COVID para 17 sina man ma-isolate maisa siya iguma niya. Yuto mo na suntog ifinut sa moro para pago na Merkulis gin ni KUAM News. Inuebo na kandidato ni para falago para este na sa kaneleksyon sa ginin Senador Republican Jesse Lujan. A requesta si Lujan ipaketeng kandidatong senador. Yuto siya ni mamanggago paketi para legislatura sa Republican na Senador Jim Moylan. Diyan na siya man malago para Republican gi 2020 na sakan. Zaman mapedi sa si Vince Borja, Sandra Siao, dan si Donnie Colani. Si Ken Leon Guerrero no malago para Republican in 2020 na sakan. Zaman mapedi lokwi sa tiya deklaray patadinya. Zaman gagagaw lokwi paketin senador. Pamalo siya ni Mama requesta sa matsuli paketin niya para senador. Loto madeklaray patida sa si Dwayne San Nicolas, Roy Gamboa, dan si Diamantino Consicao. Yung Democrat na senadora Talina Nelson sa manyuli roki paketing kandidato para legislatura sa para delegadong Guahan para Kongreso ng Amerika. Sino ang lehestra para pambota online and through internet, doon na ata ni mapasalista na kandidato siya. But para mas informasyon, hanogi gec.guam.gov. Para Guam News Network, Guausikin Concepcion. Yasuto ifinut sa moro sa presenta sa ninafato ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Want a better look at your spending? With MoneyMap, you can automatically create budgets and manage where your money is going. Know when you have a green light or when it's time to slow down. Maybe cook more meals at home this week. Set your goals, track your progress, and find your way to exactly where you want to be. With MoneyMap from the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. It all starts with yes.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage. With generations of Filipinos calling Guam home, KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
Marianas Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutters, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Marianas Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Marianas Irrigation and Landscape Superstore.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
I didn't get screened because I was just afraid of it.
I procrastinated.
I didn't have any symptoms.
I didn't have insurance.
I didn't want to know.
There were several services that was available to me.
I got a mammogram.
Colonoscopy.
I know in my heart that early detection saved my life.
And I just tell people all the time, please go get screened.
The Culture Club returns to KUM Digital and KUM News Weekend Edition, highlighting Guam's young artists, activists, and crafters as they work to protect, preserve, and promote our Tsumoto culture. Watch this weekly feature on the digital platforms of KUM News Weekend Edition, brought to you by Hanum, the freshest bottled water made in Guam.
KUAM Communications continues our perpetuation of our Chamorro culture, language, and heritage, with features available to our listening and viewing audience, including streaming of Chamorro music 24 hours per day on Isla Digital Radio on KUAM.com and the KUAM News app. Chamorro News Update, weekdays on The Link and the KUAM News YouTube channel. Conversations about life in our Chamorro language podcast, Cuentos Tapoco, with Kin Conception. Seasonal specials, shows, and other features highlighting the beauty of our language, culture, and history. It's a new era of our continued commitment to our Chamorro heritage. Isla, watch, listen, stream. Viva Isla!
Pacific Matters is a half-hour news, culture, and lifestyle show focused on issues that impact Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, and the larger Pacific region. Join Tomas Maglonia every Monday to discuss politics, trends, and take a deep dive into the issues changing our island home, because what happens in the Pacific matters.
Good morning. Good morning, Guam. 7:15. Dr. Hoa Wen's coming up. We also got the Superintendent of Education, John Fernandez. Yeah, people leaving comments. GDOE. I don't cover education, but I know they do come out with the case counts for the student positives. We haven't seen anything, so we'll figure it out, guys. Don't worry. We got your back here on The Link. 7:15.
Public Safety Co-Chair, Senator Frank Blas Jr. Joins us now in the KUAM News Link Zoom room. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, the KUAM team. Good morning, Guam.
Good morning. Man, they had a big old press conference yesterday. It was a big press conference. The Department of Administration had recommended last year, before Christmas, a 18% raise for all law enforcement officers. And what a way to start an election year.
It is. Well, first off, didn't know anything about the press conference.
Yeah, I was going to
yesterday.
say, I didn't see you there. I don't know if you got the Zoom invite, or it's probably, there's so many Zoom links that go around nowadays. Maybe you clicked on the wrong one. I don't know.
Well, that said, it's par for the course, right. Unfortunately. And, a little bird had whispered in my ear a couple weeks ago that, this was a major announcement that was going to be made by the governor. Mm-hmm. Something about pay raises. I didn't know too much to the details, and I said, well, let's see what happened. You're right. As the co-chair for law enforcement, in the legislature. And when you're talking about something as significant as what as these pay raises are, it comes as a surprise, because then there are a number of unanswered questions about how it is going to be implemented in light of every other thing, everything else that's occurring on this island. First question is, okay, how are we going to pay for this, and how are we going to sustain it? And then the question too is, okay, how did you get to that specific figure, that specific percentage of 18%? Where did this come from? And what study were you made? But then also importantly, as I remember, the conversation was surrounding the officers of the Guam Police Department, and the disparity that they had reported themselves of the pay ranges and the pay scales of a Guam Police Department officer as opposed to an officer with the Port Police, with the Airport Police, and other law enforcement entities within the government of Guam. And they were concerned about that those officers in those entities were getting much more in as far as starting pay and even promotional pay than what they were getting. And I thought that the conversation was going to be about how we can bring parity to this. Now reading the Daily Post and seeing just how broad and expansive this 18% increase is, how does that address the parity, and how did the disparity that exists between the officers within the local agencies here? And so there are a number of different questions, but the more, I guess for me, the more profound question is, in the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this economic crisis that we're currently in, how are we going to pay for this? Just a couple weeks ago on Nestor Lecanto's show, in Full Zoom, he had on Dr. Maria Claret, Lorraine from the University of Guam, who granted as a professor of economics, but then speaking on her behalf, recognizing that this was not an official position of the University of Guam, but on hers, but with extensive background in economics, she raised some red flags and some alarms of what we can expect if certain things happen. Gave a couple of what if scenarios, and it really didn't look good. So how do we then promise law enforcement to be able to provide this in light of the fact that you've got economists that are already says, hang on, we may experience a 2 to 10% reduction in our total economy and how things happen.
Right. Yeah.
So then, how do we pay for this?
Senator, I want to play the story because the governor did address how it's going to be paid for, and I don't know, it was pretty interesting. her explanation of how much how this would be paid for. And I'll just go ahead and play Nestor's story, and then we'll come back and talk more about this.
The Department of Administration conducted research regarding the government pay plan. 2014 was the last time law enforcement agencies received a pay raise. Other findings were just as troubling. Governor Lou Leon Guerrero.
GPD was actually 18% behind the national average, ultimately resulting in our low recruitment and retention within even our local retention enforcement agencies.
According to the governor, DOA recommended that the base salaries of law enforcement agencies increase by 18%. She believes that this pay increase is doable and has plans to shift costs around to accommodate it.
The revenue streams that we are going to, of course, be looking at is our ARP funds. And of course, when we take it down to the legislature, the good senator is reviewing his revenues based on what we have gotten in terms of EITC reimbursements, and of course, child tax credit, and of course, our very aggressive collections and our very committed cabinet members that work very hard to decrease their expenses, and also our efforts in shifting a lot of our costs over to federal funds and federal grants.
As Guam continues to lose its law enforcement personnel, their hope is that this pay increase will recruit more officers, along with maintaining the personnel they already have. The increase will go into effect on January 30th of this year.
Master move, Senator Blas, as you saw the governor in her own words talked about the Guam Police Department. GPD was 18% below the national average, but they basically gave or are giving this 18% raise to DYA law enforcement officers. I think Rev and Tax as well, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness. And you know, it's almost like the participation trophy kind of thing. I mean, don't get this the wrong way. I'm not sure when we expanded the definition of a law enforcement officer, but it is what it is, Senator. So they cast a pretty wide net.
Yeah, it goes back to the initial conversation. Don't get me wrong, Chris. You know, I was a cop at one point in time. I remember back in the days of, you know, first off, it wasn't uncommon, you know, when I was in the police department in the earlier days, that we had to wait 2-3 years just for overtime pay. You know, we had to bear that. We had to be as part of being a police officer. You know, but the conversation was for Guam police officers. The disparity that existed between the other officers within the government of Guam, that apparently as a result of, you know, them getting the federal funding and whatnot, and the autonomy to be able to provide them, gave them pay scales above what the Guam Police Department, the premier police department on our island, was getting. I get it. I know this. I wore this. I wore the badge. You know, I donned the shield. I wore the uniform. You know, if it's about retention of police officers, one of the other things I've been talking to many police officers is, first off, the police department is lacking personnel. You know, when I was in the police department in the early days, we had 500 officers. Today, they have like 280 total in the police force, to include civilian personnel. You know, and so it was the support. What they're looking for is primarily, and a lot of times, a morale issue. It's the support that they want to be able to get to know that there's somebody that's got their back, not just on the street, but in the courtroom, administratively and whatnot. Okay, so you give them an 18% pay raise, but then you still keep the police officers those numbers that low. You know, this officer still got to be able to respond to a domestic violence all by himself. There's that fear of what may happen to him because the backup is just too far away, or that fear that if he does, you know, if he makes a decision, a life and death decision, and then he gets chastised for it, he doesn't get any support for this, it then erodes that individual's desire. It's nothing about the money. It's about the support that that you can give to them. And I don't want to go off on a tangent and say that this is, they don't deserve it. They do.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's be honest and let's be real. We're talking about this in the midst of 6,000 people who still don't have jobs, who were told to go home. The government told them to go home. The government told them that as a result of going home, because no business couldn't pick them back up. Because of the government restrictions, the government mandates, the executive orders that came out. Okay, we have 5,000 to 6,000 people that's still looking for jobs, that's still looking for a way to be able to put food on their tables. Can you imagine what they were looking at when they read the front page of the paper yesterday? Okay, and when you were discussing about this and how the business, wait a minute, you're saying, okay, we can find this within our budget. We can use the ARP money. Just a few weeks ago, we talked about trying to keep businesses afloat so that we can keep our economy going. Okay, and we said it had to be restricted because we don't have the money. How do you say we don't have the money for that, but then we find the money for this? How do you say in the midst of our budget, when we're having budget discussions, that you're complaining that you're strapping me, that you're saying that you're not giving me the budget, and you're not giving me the flexibility that I need to be able to do my job, and then all of a sudden you find this. And then we're saying that we're going to be relying on federal grants and aids. I need to remind you, Build Back Better, okay, the chances of that passing is gone. The chances of us getting a third stimulus package is almost near impossible. How are we going to make up for the monies that we've lost when we've got an economy that, just last year, okay, if you were to look at the organic growth, the organic economic figures on just nothing to do with federal funding, with military buildup, with pandemic aid. If you were looking, if we didn't get that $4.5 billion, we only raised 1.8. We have a $6.4 billion economy. How are we going to make up for that? And if we can't make up for that, how are we going to keep our promises to our law enforcement officers? Are you going to put it on the backs of legislation? Say, okay, Hago Lemon, you guys figure it out. There's not much to figure out when there's no money.
Man, Senator, I mean, how do you let that fly? Her explanation and how she's going to pay for it, it was ARP funds, and then it was my directors save a lot of money, and then it was EITC, Advanced Child Tax Credit, and then federal, they're going to move their expenses over to federal grants. And so that was like 5 or 6 different vague funding sources, right? And so you're right. I mean, in 2-3 years, when we don't have this federal money, I mean, how are we going to pay the bill for this? There's a comment from
By the end of this year, when we don't have this money, how are we going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's not wait 2-3 years. We can just wait till the end. I figure starting come March. Okay, listen to all the funding sources she talked about. Earned income tax credit. The EITC, the child tax credit. Eventually, those things are going to be looked at and whether or not they can continue. And if we're going to be relying on that and we don't bolster our economy, we don't do something to build our economy back up so that organically within our economy we're raising money as well, how are we going to sustain that? I don't want to deceive our law enforcement officers. I don't want to deceive our police officers. I've been there. I've done that. And as far as being a cop,
we had a couple comments.
And the other thing that I got when the little bird, whispered in my ear about these major announcements that the governor was going out into the precincts and talking to the police officers. And police officers, we'll take our commands. Okay. A lot of times police officers won't question anything. Okay, because we're trained. Take your command and run with it. You know how many of them felt that way? Okay, great. Thank you. You're going to finally address the disparity that exists within our pay. No, wait a minute. You're going to include who? I thought that's what we were trying to address here. Then let's take this even further. Okay? Because after that announcement was made and everything, you know how many teachers and nurses and other professional workers within the government have called me and said, hey, sir, what about us? Aren't we just as important? How are we going to address that?
I heard it's in the works.
We're going to rely on you a stimulus, a tax abatement or whatnot, tax credits. In the meantime, again, we have 5,000 to 6,000 people who were told to go home by the government. How does that fly in the face of a community that's suffering?
We did have
It's difficult.
We had a couple comments here, Senator. Rosemary kind of speaks to your point. If GPD officers were lower than other agencies, but the governor is giving 18% across the board for uniformed personnel, it places GPD in the same predicament as being lower. What is the rationale for this? Joe comments, disparity in GPD pay continues when 18% pay raise includes other law enforcement agencies. And what's funny is that we've had Chief Steve Ignacio on this show, and he talks about not just losing officers to Camp Blas in the military side, he's losing officers to other agencies in the government of Guam. And
But you can say that about, if you were to talk to the public auditor, BJ Cruz, he can say that about his people in the OPA going into other agencies. Okay? You can say that about teachers in GDOE going over to the DEA. You can say that about nurses in the GMH going over to other places. How about them? Okay? Unfortunately, what the governor has done here is she opened up a can of worms. She isn't addressing the disparity that exists within a particular profession and a particular position within the government of Guam, the Guam Police Department officer. You've made for, and again, it's not to say that they don't, but is this the time to do it? Is this the time to do it? Please, after this announcement, please, and I'm going to say this to the department agencies and heads, don't come to the legislature and say you're shorthanded and you have shortfalls. Because the governor had just said that you all are getting together so you can help to address this. The people of Guam then expect you to be able to provide the services that they're expecting from the government of Guam. Okay, despite the shortfall you say you're going to take on. I can take this conversation in many different places. Okay, we've not only got a rise in the crime activity in Guam, we've got a rise in basically the disintegration of social values. We've got people who are in desperate times in desperate need. I think the government role here is to be able to help everybody in the community just to try to get back up on our feet.
Do you think that the precedent has been set? I mean, going back to the pandemic when a lot of the GovGuam workers got to stay home and get paid, right? That I think there's this feeling in the private sector that, when it came to us, it was like you could only front half the money for the leap. When it came to us, you couldn't give us the premium pay for essential workers that the ARP allows, but yet you can give this 20% raise across the board. I mean, when you just look at the agencies who are going to be getting this, it was like there's 10 agencies. I mean, they had law enforcement officers and agencies I didn't even know they had law enforcement officers.
And here's the thing that flies in the face of the Guam Police Department, okay? And granted, the other agencies, not take away from their law enforcement roles within the different agencies. But at the end of the day, when it really when the ground hits the rubber, who is it that they call to be able to assist them in the arrest and in the investigation? The Guam Police Department officer. Okay. Where's the training that you get to be able to do this? From the Guam Police Department. I have a passion for police officers, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie. So sometimes this is a position, and people might say, be careful with what you're going to be saying because it could be unpopular. Well, so, sometimes what's right isn't popular. I was one of those police officers that was promised, the world in a number of things, but it never panned out because we couldn't afford it. I don't want to do this to them again. And really, if we're concerned about it as far as the retention of police officers, one of the other things we need to work on, other than the disparity in pay, is the disparity in the morale and the support. You got a police officer who makes an arrest, a decent arrest, okay, on a criminal, on an individual who's committed a crime. And then in less than 24 hours, he's going to the meetings, finding out that same individual. And that individual is just smirking at him because all the effort that the police officer did to protect the community, he's back out on the street. You got police officers who sympathize with victims, okay, and want the best for victims, and then things occur after they make their arrest and it goes on into the system. Then now this individual's back out on the street again, terrorizing the same people that he's terrorized because he feels, well, don't worry, yeah, I'll spend another day in jail, but I'll get back out. Would you like to be able to go to a job knowing you did your best for the job and then find out that whatever you did in that job, you don't have the support of the backup, or it's just like it just didn't happen? So there's more to it than just the pay. If we really want to be able to do this, then let's sit down, let's deal with this.
I mean,
but when you go to the pay, and you're going to make this pay in the midst of the promises, oh, don't worry, we can take care of this because we've got this federal grant, federal aid, federal money's coming, federal. That well's going to come dry soon. And when it does, how are we going to pay for it? Then what?
Thank you, Senator.
No, thank you. You got me started. And I'm, like I said earlier, don't have the hiccups. You know, but Chris, but this is you. Okay? All right? This is you.
I'm not trying to egg you on.
Yeah,
it is what
Chris,
it is.
one of the conversations I'd like to have, one of the things that's really concerned me that I've been working on over the last month, what's our economic strategy to get us out of this?
Give people raises, 20%. It's that you give them a raise, they have more money, and then they go and they spend it. And
yeah. You know that what you used to buy for $100 back in 2019 is it now costs you basically about $130, and you're gonna do this now without any pay? How much money in PUA did we send back to the federal government? Why didn't we use that PUA money to be able to those workers that were told to go home, put them in that thing so that we can use that money there so that we can save whatever money, or that we don't spend any money that we don't have.
that's what they did in the NMI. Like they put a lot of their government workers on the PUA. Smart.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yes. Anyways. Thank you, Senator.
What are you doing?
Yes. Go take your meds.
Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, Dr. Nguyen. Have
there
fun.
you go. All right. Thank you, Senator Frank Blas Jr. Saying basically this 18% raise doesn't deal with the disparity. Because, I mean, it makes sense, right? If GPD is down here and everywhere else is up here, and you're trying to bring GPD up here, but then you're giving everyone this, you know what I mean? They just stay the same. I don't know. But what I do know is it's January of an election year, and a whole lot of people just got raises. So there it is what it is. It's 7:39. Dr. Ho Wen. Let's go in with Dr. Ho Wen here in the KUAM News Zoom room.
Hey, guys.
Thank you, Senator. Doc, wow, I don't even know where to start. There's just so much going on. 600, this is a record, 637 positive cases last night. No restrictions, no much of anything. The messaging from the public health authority and the governor has not changed. Go get your shots, right? Go get tested. Your thoughts, Doc. I mean, first of all, we had 600 cases reported over the weekend, and tack another 637 onto that. I mean, this surge it's real.
Yeah, it's real, and we see it's coming already. I mean, we're not going to be any difference than anywhere in the state. Hawaii have over 6,000 yesterday, and they are about 5-6 weeks into the surge. So we're gonna get higher. And the problem is that the hospital was slowly going up. It's not going to be as bad as the Delta, but with the high positive, there will be some hospitalization and some people will get affected. But economic wise, boy, I tell you, it's going to hit a lot of business. We even the healthcare center, and the restaurant or the business going to have a lot of people because of positive. So it's not just the health care system that get a burden, but the business will be affected also. In the state, there's a lot of businesses closing a few days just because there's too many positive in the business. So I don't know. We have to do something. Right? People expect it's not a lockdown. It's never going to happen, and it's unreasonable. But I think that restriction of the number of gatherings should be there. Mentally, psychologically, people will abide by that, and they think twice about putting the big gathering together. So I think that something have to happen. If we let the thing go right now, I don't know. We're going to have a long ride here for the next few weeks.
I still can't really wrap my mind around that this is the play. Let's just let it run. It seems it seems pretty reckless, Doc. I mean, we're talking about a 23%, Jay? 23% positivity rate reported yesterday. 637 positives out of, I think, about 2,300 tests. 2,700. Oh, 2,700. Thank you, Jay.
2,747 to be exact.
Right. So they're testing a lot of people. But, Doc, when you talk about these positives and the large number of positives, of course, some of them are going to end up in the hospital, right?
Yes, that definitely, the majority of the case we see still mild symptom, but again, mixing into those mild symptoms, there's some people that will get in trouble, and we have not get into the elderly yet. Right now, the majority of the people that turn positive is the 18 to 39, but sooner or later, they will bring it home, and that's where we're going to see later on that the elderly will get affected. So like I said, the last three surge, we just let it burn out by itself. And I think this one, the way they go right now, is going to be the same thing, So it's gonna take a long time for us to get out of this thing if we don't do anything different than just promoting boosting and testing. You got to somehow, encourage people to kind of curtail the gathering. By doing that, it's just put some restriction. It's not hard to go from 100 down to 50, and I don't think people will fight for that one. But again, it's just let people know that hey, we are trying our best just to kind of slow down this positive rate that we have at this point.
I think it would go a long way to show any kind of effort. Press conferences, I was really surprised that they had a press conference yesterday for all these raises that they're giving out, and they didn't say the C word, I don't even think once. COVID. No, yeah. I felt like it would have been a good opportunity for the governor to say, hey, everybody, I know we're celebrating these raises, kicking off the election year in a big way. But also there's a surge thing going on, and I just want to talk to you about that. I mean, wouldn't that have been a great opportunity, Doc? Because I feel like people are just wanting to hear something from their elected leaders.
Yeah, I think that's we have to say something. Is that you can't see this number going up all the time. It's even Hawaii are trying to do something different, right? I mean, at this point, people don't like it much, but they look like they require a booster now to be complete. So they are trying their best to do that stuff. They have the QR code for the for verification of the vaccine, and so far, for us, we haven't done anything different than just promote booster. That we have to do something different on this one, but we cannot go the way we are in the last three surges, especially Delta. We just let it ride, and you can see we lost quite a few people. And we don't be the same right this time, but it's just going to get a bit longer. I don't think February 1st will be over. It's going to be the end of February if we keep going the way we are.
And that's what Dr. Ho is referencing. He's referencing the current PAG chair, Dr. Nathaniel Berg, had said that the surge would be over by February 1st. Well, not sure how that's going to work out.
I'm wrong. That's a blessing for our island. But I don't think that for everyone that positive, we have 600 yesterday. There's 2 or 3 more positive in the community that we didn't test. So it's a big picture out there that people have to be careful. And again, our message to our people is, try to really, if the government don't put any restriction, then restrict yourself and try to not have any large gathering, because you don't know who's around you that have the virus. And what we see right now, and from the clinic standpoint of view, when people turn into a clinic and test positive, we really have to kind of get the story out of them that they have some congestion, some throat irritation, or some very mild symptom. But again, it will affect the majority of people. So our people would really need to kind of pay attention to what they have. If they don't feel normal, and even you have just a little bit of runny nose or watery eye, those are symptoms. Go get tested and not go to work, and protect yourself from your family, because that's how you spread the virus. We have to slow down, like I said, because once you get to the elderly, that's when it affects the hospitalization. So, pay attention to your symptom and try not to go to work if you have symptoms, and go get tested. That's the best part about it, is that don't ignore things that you have just some allergy or some cold virus. Go get tested, so that way you can protect people around you.
Doc, we're talking about testing here. We have a comment. I actually went out to the testing site yesterday just to talk with our people, and what I saw, I talked to maybe the first 10 cars, a lot of symptomatic patients, a lot of people who had a family member who was sick, and now they were feeling sick, and so they were all going to get tested. But we did have a comment here from Samantha. Took my symptomatic brother to get tested yesterday. No appointment, of course, because you don't know when you're going to get sick. And I was told they were not prioritizing symptomatic people as reported. It's still first come, first serve. I got there at 10 a.m. and was told to come back before 1 p.m. Why are we still going through this 2 years into this pandemic, Doc?
Yeah, this is the healthcare system. Once you want to limit the amount of tests, you put them in an appointment. When you have a mass testing, again, appointment is not the best way to go. That's how the healthcare system work, right? In the clinic, in order for us to control the number of walk-in, we put appointment. But once if I want to open the clinic really wide and test everybody that's sick visit, I just have walk in, because that's how you get the number of people to come in. And you can prioritize the symptomatic one, because that's the one you really want to get tested to make sure they don't have the virus. So appointment is a way to control the number of people coming in. I think in the middle of the surge right now, what they should do is open more sites and just walk in and prioritize the symptomatic patient and test them first. And and also educate the public, right? I mean, the day that you get tested is very important for the close contact. If you have a close contact just yesterday to get tested today and it's negative, it didn't mean anything. Again, if you have a close contact, just watch your symptom. You can go to work, you can do stuff, but it take about anywhere from 3 to 5 days for you to become symptomatic if you have the virus. So the best time to test for close contact is anywhere from day number 3 to number 5. So don't get tested if you get notified that you close contact yesterday, because if you test negative, you can still come down as a positive about 3-4 days from now. So, that's something we need to kind of educate the public, so that way you don't have a lot of people test negative because of close contact, and then a few days later they become sick again, and then now they think they're negative. So that's something that education-wise, we have to do that, and again, prioritize the people that have symptoms. I will put a person at the beginning, at the gate, and ask them they have symptom or not. If they have symptom, go to a different line. Triage them at the beginning. And that's you will most likely use your testing capacity at the maximum efficiency at that point.
Doc, we had a couple of comments here. Clarissa, just seeking clarification, really. Do we need an appointment or no? Both my kids out of school for 2 days and they need to be tested. And yeah, we get the appointment stuff. I really do. You're trying to make it, but it's a fast pivot, right? I mean, you could be fine today, tomorrow, 2 kids sick, got to go get tested or whatever, right? And they don't have, I mean, I don't even know if they have any appointments left. Jake, could you check?
Yeah, it's hard to make an appointment because if you have a 8 o'clock appointment, you have 20 cars in front of you, you're gonna be late. It's very hard to do that for testing.
Doc, when you're talking about what's happening in the States with shortages, we're seeing that here already. I know that we're supposed to do a shoot and a restaurant just short-staffed because everyone is either positive or isolating because of a close contact, right? And so this restaurant closed early yesterday. I don't think they're going to open today. We're seeing other businesses that are sending out notices that they're just closing up because they don't have enough staff to run things. I'm seeing this in Saipan too. A friend of mine owns a restaurant in Saipan. They had a bunch of exposures, some positive. They just shut down, totally just closed.
Yes, it's going to affect a lot the restaurant or the business. The construction, it's going to affect everyone. If we don't put some control on this thing, it's just, again, fortunately, a lot of people won't end up in the hospital, but again, it's disrupt the business just because the employee have to stay home.
Right.
Yeah, so Chris, I'm sorry, you were asking the question, Chris, about about if there are availabilities. The T's inside, I'm on the site right now, so tinyurl.com/COVID-stops-with-me. Today and Thursday, fully booked, sold out already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Friday and Saturday still available though.
Oh yeah. So
it's sold out like that. You got to thinking, hey, you got to open another site somewhere.
I mean, it was sold out last week, Doc. So I don't know, like, why are they being so hard-headed?
I think I think the true reason is there's the manpower issue. They are short. You can't do so much with so many people, and that's why it's important to do the testing the most efficient way. If you want to catch this, prioritize the symptomatic patient. But that means that you have to put a person at the beginning of the line.
Right. Yeah.
When you in.
Yeah. And they do. They have a person at the beginning of the line, Doc. But what I found was yesterday when I was making my way down the line, I mean there were 12 cars, 13 cars down. People were symptomatic, and so.
Yeah. I'm about when you first enter.
Right.
The team. That's where at the beginning of the line.
What's frustrating, Doc, is these people have no clue what's going on. They don't, and we're doing our part. We're telling you it's appointment. We're telling you it's fully booked. We're telling you what to do. But these people in the line, I mean, they were like, "Oh, Chris, so we're symptomatic. Can we just drive up?" I'm like, "Well, they said they were giving priority to symptomatic, but I don't know. I mean, and they don't want to lose their place in line. So yeah, it's so frustrating, Doc, to see our people.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me. It's like I don't like it when our people are feeling a certain way and they don't have to. Right? They don't have to be feeling this way. If there was more information coming out, if there was more of a presence, then maybe it would just kind of like ease some of these concerns that they have. Very real and valid concerns.
Yeah, there has other place, I know the public health place are testing, GRC are testing. I think all the tier 2 are testing at certain capacity because we have other patients that we have to take care of. Again, I think it will be much benefit if you have a central drive-in testing site somewhere in the central or south. That's with no appointment. You got to spread out the load of teaching. There's a lot. I saw a line of car there when I pass by, and that's about 7 o'clock, and they don't test till 8. So it's just a long way to wait.
Yeah, interesting point, because Doc is actually talking about like decentralizing it. As far as the vaccinations clinic go, up in Dedido, at the Northern Regional Community Health Center, and again, this is for vaccinations, not testing, but today, tomorrow, and Friday, and Saturday still available down in Inalahan, again, for vaccinations, not testing.
Are they doing testing at Southern Public Health? We did have a comment that they were, but I know usually they don't do vaccine testing in the same location. And I think Southern Public Health tests on certain days, I want to say, right, Jay? He'll get into that.
Yeah.
Doc, so can we just, for the record, if you were still the PAG chair, what would your recommendations be to Governor Lulian Guerrero this morning?
I think they should put some restriction out there. Like I say, put from 100 down to 50. And I think, again, psychologically, people will saying, hey, there's some restriction there. Maybe I wouldn't do any gathering, any planning for party. Right now, because there's no restriction in the people's mind after 2 years of pandemic. If you don't have a restriction there, they say, hey, we can do whatever we want. And that's what keep the number positive up all the time. And to me, people out there, they expect some restriction just to get to some guideline. I don't think they're going to argue, say, hey, you cut down the number from 100 down to 50, they're going to argue much about it. They know, and that's the thing. So we got to do something different than just boosting and testing. It's not working. So we got to do something different.
Doc, can we just get a comment from you on the hospitalizations? Can I see, Jay, the data of the hospitalizations, the vaxxed, the unvaxxed? So it is 18 vaccinated, 6 unvaxxed. One ineligible was a 2-year-old child friend of mine. Their kid was hospitalized with COVID, and one was unknown because Naval Hospital didn't tell public health the status. But people are keying in on this 3-to-1 rate of hospitalizations vaccinated versus unvaxxed.
You're going to have a lot more vaccination patient in the hospital, and that's going to be it's not going to be just now, it's going to be the rest of the pandemic. You have a large number of vaccination patients out there that are fully vaccinated but not boosted. You have right now about 30% of our fully vaccinated that not that boosted. So it means that the rest of the 70% of the people that are fully vaccinated, they're not fully protected. So and when you have an unrestricted gathering, the vaccinated people that are not fully protected, they will end up in the hospital because they, just like anyone else, their immunities are coming down, and their chance to be in the hospital is higher. Again, the number will be higher because there's a large percentage of fully vaccinated but not fully protected people out there. So that's the reason why. It's not that the vaccine doesn't work. It's just that your immunity level actually much lower level now because you're not boosted. And if you go to gathering and you put your mask down, you'll be in the hospital. And that's why we see that. Not because the vaccination don't work, just because our boost percent so low.
Thank you for that, Doc. Appreciate that, because I know a lot of people will look at that and they'll say, well, why bother getting the vaccine? So thank you. I know that we talked about the booster because you're talking about fully vaccinated people who aren't fully protected because they haven't got the 3rd shot. Do we need to ramp up the efforts? I'm waiting on the jingle. I'm waiting on the public health. It's not like how it used to go out and get your boost. You know what I mean? Got to work with us here, people.
That's we have to put the message out there, right? Because like you say, people say, hey, why we vaccinate, and you end up in the hospital, and they have to understand the reason why, and the reason is because a lot of people turn positive that we see that had the 2nd shot more than 6 months ago, and that's something that we have to let people know that, hey, don't look at the hospital and see how many vaccinated people versus unvaxxed, just because most likely those those people are fully vaxxed, but way offered that their booster already. So that's the reason why. And you have to put that message out there so that people understand, and they will try to go protect themselves by getting the booster.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay. So again, Kristen, I'll ask everyone, try the best, even we don't have restriction. If you plan any gathering, be responsible and try to cut down the number of guests that you invited, and make sure that, somehow use your mask around other people. We have a mask mandate, but the problem during the gathering, there's no such thing as mask mandate. Everyone dropped their mask, and that's where the exposure and the spread coming from. So, try to limit yourself if the government don't put any restriction out there, and be responsible to your guests.
Just one more time, Doc. Marcy comments in here, and maybe just correct me if I'm wrong. I'll try and explain it in a way that she can understand. She's saying your answer still doesn't explain why the hospitalization of unvaccinated is less. So what you're basically saying is, because we have 90 million people on Guam who are vaccinated, that doesn't necessarily mean they're fully protected because they haven't got the booster. So if you got the vaccine more than 6 months ago, they say the effectiveness of it is rapidly declining, and so you're exposed, okay? And so with more people who are fully vaccinated, they're going to represent a larger percentage of the hospitalizations because there are only about 10,000 unvaccinated people on the island.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
You are correct. You have 130,000 people that fully vaccinated, something like that, and you have about 40,000 that boosted. So you are kind of short quite a bit. So
I'm not short, Doc. I'm boosted. I'm right where as long as I need to be. Boosted up.
A lot of people out there is not fully protected, so that's the reason why. And again, it's just a pure number thing, and you will see a lot more vaccinated people in the hospital because they're not boosted. That's not because the vaccination doesn't work. So if I were them, if people are fully vaccinated, go out there and get your boosters, so that way the chance to end up in the hospital is much, much less.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome, guys. And again, try to count the day that you have a close contact, and try the most effective day for close contact for testing, day number 3 to number 5, and just watch the symptom, okay?
Doc, can you, so I'm sorry, we're way over, but just real quick, the definition of close contact, in your opinion, does it need to be changed because Omicron is way more contagious? Because the definition that they're using, it's kind of like Delta Alpha.
I don't know, the Omicron is so infectious, you drop your mask for a few minutes around somebody that have the virus, you will catch the virus. The chance is very high. So forget about the rule, just wear your mask around people that you don't know, so that way you protect yourself.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome. Be safe, and let's all hope that this surge will end soon, but I think it's going to be probably the end of February, the way we go right now.
Or they could just keep making it harder for people to get tested, and we'll just be done with this next week. Thanks,
just
Doc.
be careful.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Right
Take
on.
care, guys.
Right on. Be safe. We got all of our shots. I'm wearing 2 masks. Jason's got his N90 million. What is that?
And the KN95.
KN95.
I had to spend a few bucks on
That's
this.
the thing, dude. This new guidance. Do we have that video? We should get that one we posted on the...
Oh, okay.
I'll talk to you. Okay. Basically, the new mask guidance is whatever mask you have is not good enough. Go spend your money on a new one. How much are those, Jay?
I got a pack of 10 of the N95 masks, and I think they were $12.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, okay, are they reusable? And no, this is like you use it for a day.
Yeah. I don't know why we're still having this conversation. ARP funds, you should be able to pick up masks, right? I mean, that's a big cost, right? So if you can't afford to get the N95, just do as I did, and I'm wearing like whatever 2 masks I could stack on top of each other. It's 8:04. KUAM TV. Let's go over to KUAM TV, guys. We're kind of late. Sorry. Good morning on the breeze. We're KUAM FM in Agotni, Guam. This is the link brought to you by Pacific Points, Cowboy Enterprises, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Good morning. Guam. Right on. Good morning. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning. Okay, and right off the top, people were asking what is the schedule for after school testing today.
Yes,
Today it's going to be at
thank
Upi
you.
Elementary School in Jigo starting at 3 and going until about 6. So Upi Elementary after school testing at 3 to 6. There is community testing today down in Inalahan and up in Dededo from 9 to 12. So you got about 55 minutes until the regional community health centers open their doors for testing as far as vaccination. So again, depending on where you are in the island, go to tinyurl.com/COVID stops with me and make an appointment. If you didn't hear, we actually took a look and the available appointments for today and tomorrow.
Tizen is sold out.
Yeah, Tizen are booked. So if you need to get tested, please do so, and please either head up to Dededo or over to Inalahan.
Right on. At Inalahan, is it just walk-in or is it appointment only? I sent you something.
Yeah, it's a little confusing because it says go to the tiny URL.
But if you go to the tiny URL, the only option for Inalahan is
says vaccination.
Right.
But, the time. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure that one out.
Well, I did speak with.
But it also says you can call the number. So if you do need to call Inalahan and find out anything, then that number is 671-828-7604.
Right.
So 671-828-7604, 7605, or 7518. If you need to make a call for the Northern Community Center, you can call 671-635-7525 or 7526. Again, for Dededo, 671-635-7525. And I think Chris is calling Inalahan right now, right?
Yeah, long distance.
Oh.
Apade, you have reached the Southern Region Community Health Center. If this is an emergency, hang up and dial 911 or immediately proceed to the nearest hospital emergency room. Our normal hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We are closed on weekends and Government of Guam holidays. To reach the after-hours nurse, please call 797-4370. Otherwise, please leave your name, number, and a brief message.
Well, yeah, I guess you can call that. The number's Jay read to get tested down in Inalahan. Guys, so Tizen is sold out. There's so much confusion about what the freaking policy is, about accepting the walk-ins, because out of one side of their mouth, they say, yes, symptomatic will be prioritized, but we're hearing from people who listen to this show and comment in that that's not the case, that they were told, get in line, sucker, wait. So we don't know.
Today and Thursday sold out. Friday and Saturday, as of this moment, as I'm saying this, still available.
Right. So go down to Inalahan. I would say make a journey of it and go down to Inalahan and try the pickles and try the empanada. But if you're going down to get tested, don't be getting down anywhere, right? Just assume you're positive.
Okay, so that number, once again, if you need to call the Inalahan Southern Regional Community Health Center, it's 671-828-7604. Or if you need to call Dededo for any questions whatsoever, it's 671-635-7525.
Thank you very much, Jason. We did have some comments. Boy, people are getting hot in here.
I believe a gentleman was asking, do they, about the Upi Elementary, the after-school testing, do we
Right.
need an appointment to be? No, but here are the requirements, because this is everybody 5 years and up, right? If you have a youngster that you want to get the shot, if you are the parent or legal guardian, you must provide the minor's birth certificate. If you're the parent or legal guardian, you must have a photo ID of your own. The minor must be accompanied by a parent or legal guardian, and guardians specifically must present guardianship papers or power of attorney documentation. So,
right on. We did have some comments in here. Rosemary comments, but Dr. Berg said they were prepared for Omicron. Oh, you got jokes, huh, girl? Jonah, my coworker had to go get tested. He didn't know where to go. Tizen line was very long, and so was the radiology center. No one knows where to go anymore, and that is sad for year 3. Well, like we said, drive down to Inalahan. Gas up. It's a nice drive.
also the other options are private clinics.
Yep.
If you can.
Yes. Good morning. Also, Emily comments here. Now, Dr. Berg is a doctor that has gone political and lost his way, blinded by the social media spotlight. He is part of the circus of the pandemic stars. David Artero says, well, I see bars, customers, and employees walking around with no mask and going to other tables to talk to a friend. We are putting our guards down. Of course, how the hell do you think we got here? Yeah, it's us. It's the military cases. There's no strong leadership. I mean, this is where our people are at in terms of credibility from this administration. I was talking with someone last night, and they said, "Oh, they're not putting any gathering limitations in place because they're going to have a fundraiser for their reelection." That's what people are saying. That's where they're at right now. I mean, it's sad. Marcy that says that my answer still doesn't explain why the hospitalization on vaccinated is less. I don't know what else to say, Marcy. They're giving booster shots. Yes, we'll give out the information in the news. Chris Cave comments in, is this a scam? He's talking about this COVID home test. Tomas, can we just talk about that real quick before we get into the news and stuff? It is not a scam, right?
COVID-19 test from the U.S. government.
Yes.
That starts today. It's not a scam. Actually, right now, if you're wanting a walkthrough on how to order it, we just posted on our KOAM Instagram walkthrough.
Can you give that to Joe, sir?
Yes,
Can
I
you
can.
also give him the mask one that you did?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Tomas.
And so just really simple, real quick, if you're listening and you're on the edge of your seat wanting to order a COVID-19 test right now.
Yeah.
This
Maybe it'll come
applies-
faster if you order it.
Well, it takes 7 to 12 days to ship from when you order. This is
Okay.
just rolling out. And so Guam and the CNMI are included. Again, only residential addresses and your P.O. box. So if you're someone like me and uses work for your mail, you're not going to be able to do that. But the breakdown is you go to COVID-19, you go to covidtest.gov, you click order at free home COVID test. It's going to bring you to this page, USPS website. Again, you're limited to one order per residential address. One order includes 4 individual rapid antigen COVID-19 tests, and orders will ship free starting in late January. So it's going to take about 7 to 12 days for that to come in.
And remember, we are having issues of global supply chain issues. So I wonder if that is going to factor in.
It's been tried and proven as well because the hospital CEO, Esther Muña in the CNMI, tweeted today that she did place her order for an at-home antigen for these government tests. And she goes, this morning at 6 o'clock, she tweets, just ordered test for our household. Very easy, and it did accept the P.O. box. She encourages everyone, order yours now.
Oh, I did.
And again, if you're wondering and you how to exactly do that, we just posted on our social media pages a walkthrough on how to do that.
We had a comment in here, Tomas. I don't know. It was it's a little bit it's a ways back, but I'm not sure if I can get to it. But someone was saying that a lot of people are getting home tests at the pharmacies, and maybe they're testing positive, but it's not reported to public health. So that's also something that.
Right. Yeah. Jason and I have been talking about this too, and it's a conversation that happens if you test at home. I mean, unless you call public health and say, hey, add me to your tally.
I mean, have you tried freaking calling public health? It takes 7 to 12 days just to get through.
But it's interesting because I think maybe through this, again, I don't know. I need to read the fact sheet that they gave out, but because it is assigned by the government and assigned to your household, maybe there will be that built-in self-reporting, right, Jace? That's very possible since the tests are being shipped.
The pessimistic side of me also says that, there is something like...
the pessimistic side of you says the government isn't efficient?
No, it's not the government that's efficient.
You mean all of you?
Because you can say, people, if you have to register to get this in, there's a lot of people who either get it wrong or will just forget to do it, or... So there's that. So
people are.
And Tomas and I were talking about this. It's I wonder what the future of reporting this data is going to be, because even said I bought a home COVID test for myself from a private pharmacy.
Yeah.
And I took that, and I didn't. There was no opportunity, and I probably wouldn't have done it anyway for me to submit my data. So I could have brought that percentage of people that tested negative down, or think about how many other people may have done home kits that day.
Yeah. And with the home kits, I don't know what kind of home kits you had, but from what we've talked about with Dr. Hoa, is a lot of them need a confirmatory test afterwards.
Yeah, it seems like the gold standard for home tests was, or at least the one that's widely available, is the Binax
Now.
That's a rapid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a rapid test.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. Obviously, I feel like
there's
always
several
hear,
vendors too that produce it.
Yeah.
Right, and so we hear the response. Testing is a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
And so you get 4 on your first free order, and then of course with the roll out of the plan for insurers to cover
Right.
tests through
Yes.
reimbursements or.
I'm also
through
thinking now
complicated
having done the home test and everything, and again, Chris and I were talking about this. The instructions say, you should put the swab between a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch, into your nose and about
What
a
is
1/2
that,
inch.
Jay? How
half
what do you
inch for-
what do you measure that against?
That's exactly my point because
Yeah.
okay, so the
This- you
meticulous.
do like this.
No, the meticulous side.
You know how
I-
you measure the rice?
No, I stood in front of the mirror, right, with a tape measure, and I said, okay, how long is 3/4 of an inch from my nostril? And then I actually stood in front of the mirror and did it, because how would you know that you're 3/4 of an inch in, you're
Yeah.
4 inches in, whatever.
Just be safe, bro. Let it touch your brain and then pull it out. And you're
There you
good. Okay. It's 8:16. Good morning.
Actually,
yeah, but
Tomas, you want to do the daily question since you're here?
people are
This is germane to what we're talking about.
yeah, people are getting the test kits. I'm getting a lot of comments and messages that people have ordered them. So how does it work? What if you have like a family of 20?
Then let's hope you have 4 residential addresses, I guess.
So it's 5 per address.
Per household, not
Okay.
per adult,
Four-
right?
Do they know our situation here on Guam? That we get a lot of big families.
Limited 1 order per residential address. 1 order includes 4 individual rapid antigen tests. Orders will ship free in late January.
Right on. Did you guys use the work address already?
You can't. I
Oh,
don't
you
think
can't.
you can.
Okay,
yeah.
so there you go. All right. 8:17. Yeah. So let's do it backwards. We'll start with the daily question, and then we'll go into the news.
Right, and so yesterday, our Daniel Perez covered the confusing flow chart that Public Health put out, and it's supposed to update any moment now.
Is that verified that it's confusing? Yes, it is.
yeah.
No one I talked to said that this was not confusing. They were talking about it at the gym this morning, and it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
And so we asked our audience, what do you think of the public health guidance regarding quarantine and isolation? We've got a few responses. The first coming from Danielle, writing, absolutely ridiculous to segregate those who are vaccinated from those not. Whoever is sick and should have the same treatment, period. Another commenter there, Rita, writing, our thoughts don't matter because the government never takes our thoughts into consideration. More on our Instagram, another commenter saying, if this chart says anything, it is that there is actually no need for vax passports. They write, do not comply with tyranny. This other commenter says, this is a lot easier to read for many who have questions about what to do.
Yeah.
And so you have some people out there who feel like they're being guided by this. And another person writes, disagreeing, saying it looks like insanity.
Well, they did come out with a modification to this policy in the JIC last night. They did.
Right. And so Martina writing, the need to hire for communications between patients and families during quarantine and isolations. A commenter, Sandra, writing on Facebook, why do the unvaxxed have to quarantine longer if both the vaxxed and unvaxxed are both able to contract and transmit the virus? She writes there, concluding, apparently the key to this whole thing is health and fitness. Try promoting a healthier lifestyle than just promoting getting vaxxed. And so those were some of the daily questions.
Yeah.
And
someone said
daily
make
question
this into a
responses.
drinking game, that you should make.
What are there? I love the phrases, I should and I must.
Yes, you must.
Now here's kind of
Yeah,
the
Jay.
thing, right? We were talking about this yesterday. Flowcharts work for me because I'm a computer science dork, so
Yeah.
I've been doing this stuff since 1984, right? But the problem that we have now of messaging and of marketing this thing is you have to appeal to every single person on Guam, and flowcharts don't work for everybody. Kind of like the way if I read a tax form, that stuff is completely Greek to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild that 2 years in and this is.
And
what
you
we
have to find that balance of exactly what will work for every man, woman, and child.
Maybe if they had someone explaining it, you know what I mean, talking about it, it would be a little easier to understand.
Yeah.
I mean, and that one commenter saying that they wish there was more communication. So
Yeah. Well, don't we all? Thank you, Tomas.
Thanks.
Stick around.
Will do.
Let's get into our 8 o'clock news, brought to you by Pacific Points, with the very latest in for Sabrina Salas-Mantanani. My friend Jason Salas has the news for you. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Tomas, and good morning, Guam. 637 new cases is now the all-time high for Guam as far as single-day positive cases reported. That's at an equally all-time high number of tests because there were 2,747 tests sampled, analyzed on Monday. Fortunately, the number of hospitalizations has only gone up by 1, but there are now 26 Guamanians that have been admitted to the hospital, 16 at GMH, 9 at GRMC, and 1 at Naval Hospital. There are 3 people in the ICU and 2 on a ventilator. Both of them are in Tamuning at GMH. Of the 26 that are hospitalized, 18 are vaccinated, 6 are unvaccinated, 1 is ineligible, and 1 was unknown. And with that, we're going to get into our link update, of course, brought to you by our friends at Pacific Points. Monday through Friday, our friends at Pacific Points make sure that you stay abreast of the very latest Guam news headlines. So thanks so much to our friends at Pacific Points. Do more, get more with Pacific Points. And we just heard, of course, from Dr. Ho Wen of American Medical Center, and we heard from Tomas with his daily question on the much ballyhooed graphic showing the isolation and quarantine procedures. And he says, speaking of Dr. Wen, that the latest flowchart graph that serves as guidance is much more confusing than other types of instruction.
As of January 9 of this year, residents were urged to follow a chart depicting what to do if they contract COVID-19 or are a close contact of one who has the virus. However, some residents are baffled at said chart, including the former head of the Governor's Physicians Advisory Group, Dr. Hoa Wen.
I look at it and it's kind of a hybrid on the CDC new guideline, but it's much more confusing, than I think that it's going to create a lot of confusion in the public and also confuse on the DPHS staff because it's kind of hard to understand.
Dr. Wen added that the chart released by Public Health still separates those who are vaccinated and unvaccinated, unlike the isolation and quarantine protocols released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
The CDC guideline really doesn't distinguish between the vax and unvax, or the fully vaccinated, or the boosted. It's the same for everyone. Within the close contact, the quarantine, the isolation, and if you test positive, it's all the same on the CDC guideline. Doesn't matter what is your vaccination status is, and that should be. Just because, as we know now, that Omicron really doesn't care who you are. It doesn't know if you vax, unvax, or boosted. It affects you the same.
Dr. Wen believes that instead of having our own isolation and quarantine guidelines, we should adopt the one released by the CDC.
I think everyone should follow CDC guidelines. It creates a lot less confusion in the public, especially as we know in the past when you have a positive, there's a lot of confusion. Even you call the personnel at DPHS or at the clinic, even at the private clinic, sometimes we're giving conflict information on how many days you need to be isolated and how many days you need to be quarantined. So I think that everyone should be uniform and just use the CDC guideline. Everyone does, but if you deviate from that, you create a lot of confusion in the public.
Daniel Perez reporting for Guam's News Network.
And in this next story, if the Guam Power Authority doesn't get an exemption from the current law that bans construction of a power plant within the nearby vicinity of a school, its entire master plan for future power generation could be in jeopardy.
It would have a devastating effect, says GPA General Manager John Beneventi, if they don't get an exemption to build a 41-megawatt diesel generator at their PD property. GPA says it's a critical backup unit for the planned 180-megawatt power plant in Ukudu that's central to the overall master plan. Beneventi made his case during a media briefing today, ahead of a public hearing on Thursday when he will try to convince senators not only of the unit's critical need, but that it will pose little threat to the health of PD residents.
But as far as the emissions, we've been living with what we had for over 60 years. That is definitely going away beginning this year, beginning July, and by the end of this year, substantially again improve.
The law to ban generators within 1,500 feet of schools was passed in 1993 following the construction of the Macheche plant next to Juan M. Guerrero Elementary in Harmon. The proposed diesel generator in PD is within that banned proximity to Jose Rios Middle School. And while the law's been on the books for almost 30 years, the issue only surfaced a few months ago. It was raised by the lenders who are financing the construction by KEPCO. Graham Bota is GPA's legal counsel.
Without a change to the law, they will not be comfortable lending money to Guam Ukudu Power to build the 41 megawatts down in the PD area. And when they brought it up, obviously we submitted the legislation to the legislature in an effort to correct the concerns raised by Lenders Council.
If the exemption is not passed by the legislature or eventually signed into law by the governor, Beneventi says there's no formal plan B right now.
If they don't want to allow us to put it there, then I guess I'll go back to the drawing board and see what happens. No? But right now, it's really, in my opinion, the best alternative and provides the most benefits to the ratepayers of Guam.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Law enforcers haven't received pay raise since 2014, but to fix this problem, an executive order was established yesterday by the governor.
The Department of Administration conducted research regarding the government pay plan. 2014 was the last time law enforcement agencies received a pay raise. Other findings were just as troubling. Governor Lou Leon Guerrero.
GPD was actually 18% behind the national average, ultimately resulting in our low recruitment and retention within even our local retention enforcement agencies.
According to the governor, DOA recommended that the base salaries of law enforcement agencies increase by 18%. She believes that this pay increase is doable and has plans to shift costs around to accommodate it.
The revenue streams that we are going to, of course, be looking at is our ARP funds. And of course, when we take it down to the legislature, the good senator is reviewing his revenues based on what we have gotten in terms of EITC reimbursements, and of course child tax credit, and of course our very aggressive collections and our very committed cabinet members that work very hard to decrease their expenses, and also our efforts in shifting a lot of our costs over to federal funds and federal grants.
As Guam continues to lose its law enforcement personnel, their hope is that this pay increase will recruit more officers, along with maintaining the personnel they already have. The increase will go into effect on January 30th of this year.
Fun and Awesome Learning Academy Charter School, also known as CIFA, is at risk of shutting down. Here's that next story.
According to the latest audit financial report released by the Office of Public Accountability, Science's Fun and Awesome Learning Academy Charter School, or CIFA, ended another fiscal year in a deficit, which may cause the school to shut down. The OPA reports that CIFA ended fiscal year 2021 in a deficit net position of $1.4 million. That's an improvement from the fiscal year 2020 deficit of $2.6 million, according to Ernst & Young LLP, who conducted the audit for the OPA. Although the deficit of the fiscal year is better from the prior year, Ernst & Young emphasized that because of the Partnership for Learning Support and Education through Lease Utilities, Supplies, and Services, or PLEASE contract, CIFA's operations will be affected. That's the 5-year contract with Eagle Land Holdings LLC, which expires in June of next year. However, Ernst & Young noted there were no deficiencies in the internal controls and compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements in 2 management letter comments. In addition to paying for the PLEASE contract, CIFA periodically receives cash advances from Eagle. In fiscal year 2021, Eagle advanced $98,000 for medical insurance. CIFA records the cash advances as payment due to the contractor. Meanwhile, the OPA report also indicated that CIFA's total revenues increased while total expenses decreased. CIFA's total revenues of $3.9 million about doubled compared to fiscal year 2020. Gov Guam appropriation made up 80% of the total revenues at $3.1 million, while the Education Stabilization Fund, or ESF grant, of $219,000 contributed 6%. CIFA counted the $544,000 discount from the PLEASE contract as another income, which contributed 14% to the total revenues. Gov Guam appropriated $2 million or $6,000 per enrollee in fiscal year 2021 for 325 students. However, with 346 enrollees in school year 2020 to 2021, CIFA received an additional $150 per pupil. SIFA's fiscal year 2021 total expenses decreased by $575,000, or 18% from $3.3 million in fiscal year 2020 to $2.7 million. Despite SIFA's total revenues being enough to cover expenses in fiscal year 2021, its financial obligation under the police contract remains larger than its cash inflows, causing its net position to stay in a deficit, which questions SIFA's ability to continue operating. Public Law 35-39 authorized SIFA to use unexpended funds to pay prior year obligations. The charter school requested an additional $1.1 million to pay the remaining obligations under the police contract. Although GovGuam approved prior fiscal year appropriations to cover past obligations, the annual payment alone to the contractor is expensive. SIFA plans to renegotiate the police contract, request to forgive past debts, and seek additional funding from the legislature, grants, and local businesses to provide sufficient cash flows for operations. Reporting for Guam's News Network, Guahu CIZ.
And in this next story, interest in hydroponics and other forms of home food preparation centered on going back to nature raised due to global supply chain issues.
It's been years since we've been in the pandemic. Bare shelves in grocery stores and many restaurants unable to sell certain products due to shipping delays are showing the grim reality of our world today. But just because Guam is a small island in the Pacific doesn't necessarily mean we're stranded.
We've had a lot of people interested in hydroponics as a way to make their own food at the house.
Back to Nature is watering the confidence of new gardeners. India Sekiguchi, owner of the Tamuning store, explains the different methods for at-home farming.
We sell a couple different types of hydroponic systems. The most popular that we found is called the NFT system, which is made out of PVC piping. They're long pipes that are parallel to the ground, like a horizontal system.
And in those you can grow successfully leafy green vegetables, ones that have simple root systems such as lettuce, kale, spinach, and bok choy. The best part is, you don't even need a large farming space.
You can actually just put these NFT systems on your balcony. All you need to have is some good sun exposure.
Now, as far as a water source, it's quite simple.
You need a reservoir of water, and then the tubes go down into the reservoir where your submersible water pump is. And then that's just going to basically be recycling the water through the system, feeding the plants. You need some nutrients, which of course we supply here too. You can go organic as far as the nutrients are concerned, so that there's no kind of, fear of what you're putting into your body.
And before you know it, you're making your own stir fries at home with your own vegetables that you grew, and salads for days. There's also vertical farming and indoor farming, which allows people to have more control over plant environment.
And that's basically involving the use of sometimes a room in your house, but a lot of people will purchase like an indoor grow tent, and then they'll deck it out with lighting and exhaust systems. And in those kind of more controlled environments, you're really not that limited. You can grow whatever you would like to.
It can be quite daunting if you don't know where to start, but Sekiguchi says it's a gradual learning process that their staff is prepared to walk everyone through.
So you can walk in the door and say, "Hi, I'd like to start a garden, but I don't know anything about it. Help me." We'll talk about, your specific situation. Where do you live? What are you able? What type of time are you able to commit to it?
They've seen a popular rise in farming, particularly amongst the younger generation, giving sprouts of hope for a more sustainable Guam. For Guam's News Network, I'm Tyler Matanani.
All right, and in our next series of Giving Every Tuesday, Guma Ginefli'i Adult Dementia Daycare Center in Jigo. Here's that feature.
Tucked away in a quiet corner of Jigo is Guma Ginefli'i, an adult dementia daycare center. Open since 2005, the center caters to Manumku 60 years and older who are afflicted with dementia. Evelyn Cruz, the customer service supervisor for the center, says they have about 35 clients, but due to the pandemic, the numbers have been lower. Also, as a result of the pandemic, much of the landscaping at the center has been put on the back burner, especially the ponding basin near the front of the entrance, which was quite an eyesore.
This is overgrown, it's above the fence already. And then when you look, of course, it looks like a jungle. It's not supposed to be a jungle. It's supposed to be like a basin with nothing on it, but since the pandemic, everything is overgrown.
Responding to her plea for assistance were a handful of firefighters with the Guam Fire Department who showed up one day last week right after their shift ended. Firefighter John Anthony Munoz spearheaded the project, who said it all started with a simple WhatsApp message to some of his cycle mates.
There's probably about 7 of us off-duty firefighters. We had some guys bring some chainsaws and some machetes. We cut down a few trees. Not really in search of the recognition. We're just doing it to help contribute back to our community. We think that that this is our island and we should definitely give back.
Munya adds that they will be back to finish what they started. As a way of saying thank you for their efforts, Cruz and her staff prepared pancit and pandesal.
I am just so thankful with the energy, the motivation from these guys coming from work to come here and clean it. And it took them, I think, almost until 12 noon to finish the work.
If you would like to make a donation of hand sanitizers, masks, or wipes to the center, or would like to know more information, you can call 671-922-1818 or 671-685-1925.
Day brought to you by our friends at Pacific Points. And in our next video, we're going to go ahead and give you your Chamorro News update.
Buenos updates to get some to be finished tomorrow in the KUAM News. Presentan ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank. Isuado para un nuevo seno oficial lai, sa menos que 12 pesos ki hora, mas ya mafafana todo el tiempo y peligro siya na situación. Y para mafamali kasi na problema, establisa y magahaga o den eksekutibo, Departamento de Administrasyon, sa makondukto research gi plano ni gobernamento para suado. I 2014 nasakan sa último biyahe na mahasay sueldo na 10 Enero gehensya na Nefersan Lai. Según el gobyerno, merekomenda del Departamento de Administrasyon na itinitun na apas STC na hehensya sa umahat sa hulog 18%. Ahong el gobyerno na sinya magahin matawag ST, desta gwa plano niya para ginenmano magi STC na salapi. Sa polisiya mamara Enero na STC na hehensya, maalaha mo ni gobernamentong guahan na STC na inatsamento na apas o fambilensi mas nuebon Enero, matras loki masisisti STC mangay Gistagwihi. Ifetsa niyo pero efektibo ST sa dia 30 Enero. Masasunto, kana 30 na persona sa manggayagi facility isolation ng gobernamentong Guahan sa pudi COVID i Bayview Hotel. Si Jamie Franco is Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense Acting Public Information Officer ang konfirma na 29 na kausang COVID manggayagi Gwihi ani man manai briefing di Emergency Operations Center sa Agania Heights. I gobernamentong Guahan sa nadanya isagang kunarentina sa isolation Gwihi na hotel. Lulang si Franco is natawad sa Gwihi makarentita na. Mapresente lugar para positibo siya na kausang COVID para 17 sina ma-isolate maisa siya i guma niya. Ito muna suntog ifinut sa moro para pago na Merkulis gin ni KUAM News. Inuebo na kandidato ni Parofalago para este na sa kan-eleksyon sa gini Senador Republican Jesse Lujan. A requesta si Lujan ni paketing kandidatong senador. Ito siya ni mamanggago paketi para legislatura sa Republican na Senador Jim Moylan. Diyan na di siya man malago para Republican gi 2020 na sakan. Zaman mapedi sa si Vince Borja, Sandra Siao, dan si Donnie Colani. Si Ken Leon Guerrero no malago para Republican gi 2020 na sakan. Zaman mapedi lokwi sa tiya deklaray patadinya. Zaman gagagaw lokwi paketing senador. Pamalo siya ni Mama requesta sa matsuli paketin niya para senador. Loto madeklaray patida sa si Dwayne San Nicolas, Roy Gamboa, dan si Diamantino Consicao. Yung Democrat na senadora Talina Nelson sa manyuli loki paketing kandidato para legislatura dan para delegadong Guahan para Kongreso ng Amerika. Sino ang lehestra para pambota online and through internet, doon ata ni mapasalista na kandidato siya. But para mas informasyon, ano gi gec.guam.gov. Para Guam News Network, Guausikin Conception. Yasuto ifinut sa moro sa presenta sa ninafatto ni Familian Mizo gi First Hawaiian Bank.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Want a better look at your spending? With MoneyMap, you can automatically create budgets and manage where your money is going. Know when you have a green light or when it's time to slow down. Maybe cook more meals at home this week. Set your goals, track your progress, and find your way to exactly where you want to be with MoneyMap from the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. It all starts with yes.
All right, we are back here at 8:39 Wednesday, January 19th. Can we just take a real quick break and we're coming back with Superintendent John Fernandez next. Good morning.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage. With generations of Filipinos calling Guam home, KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
Superintendent John Fernandez from the Guam Department of Education coming up momentarily, but I wanted to read this message. One of the Link Fam members, beloved member of our community, Maggie Monroe Anderson, says, I just ordered my test kits. You know, Tomas was showing you earlier. Ordered some for my family in Oregon and for the family here on Guam. They're free and they ship here for free. Wow. Everyone in each household can order some for themselves. So take it from Maggie. No.
Do they ship it through Richmond or no?
Oh, boy.
That no one thought about that. Huh?
You know, I wish that was an inside joke on Guam, but it's like if you've ever tried ordering anything, the Richmond thing is.
With my luck, I'm going to order it and it's going to get stuck in Richmond.
Yeah.
At 8:43, Superintendent John Fernandez. Good morning, John.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, don't know where to start. But did you want to do your thing first, and then we'll?
Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to come on last week. I want to say it was a slow week, but as you know, there's just never telling when the week's gonna really end, and things settle down for the weekend. So I did want to address. I think something that came to the forefront and was shared widely in the community was an incident that happened in Southern High. On Friday, it was a riot that broke out between several students at the campus, and it's something that of course you've also seen in other schools, especially when students or others video and share that. So it was of course we always deal with these on a case-by-case basis and try to ensure that we deal with the students, the perpetrators accordingly. But the concern of Southern High was it was serious enough for a student to need to be transported to the hospital. Luckily, and for him, that he was able to be released that evening. But that just reminds us that even if you aren't fighting, even just horseplaying, there are consequences to falling, hitting your head. Other ways you might be endangered, and we certainly don't like to see any of our students, end up at the hospital. So I did, send a message out to our community, but really to our administrators, and that is that, not only during a normal year, but especially this year, as we're trying to get students back to a safe environment for teaching and learning, that we have to really remind everybody that there is no room for violent activities on campus. And under our board policy, that doesn't just mean, those individuals who might be fighting, but those who threaten, those who instigate, those who are seen, abetting or assisting, everyone is subject to consequences. And I've told the administrators, they need to draw a bright line in terms of how they're going to address these issues in the schools. In the most serious cases, as you know, if a student is recommended for expulsion from, from school, the administrator may make their recommendation. There's obviously due process involved. There's a committee of fellow classmates, teachers, representatives from the central office who meet and hear all sides. But at the end of the day, if that's a recommendation that comes to me, I'm really, inclined to support the administrators and ensure that the message gets out there that we're not really playing around. We don't have room for violence in the schools, and we don't have the luxury of anybody being endangered and feeling threatened and possibly hurt or hospitalized. So there's a lot going on. So, that was the first thing I wanted to kind of communicate. And second, I spoke to our district psychologist and said, obviously our first reaction to this was to work with GPD and our mayors and so forth to really make sure that the campus is safe. So yesterday they instituted a blanket search, made sure that nobody was bringing in weapons, provided extra monitoring for students, and that type of activity will continue. But I did also reach out to our district psychologists, our lead psychologists here in the department to ask what they're learning about other districts that are reopening and whether they are seeing any of these types of behaviors increasing as a result of kids in isolation and now coming back to school. And the reason I did that was because we in a couple of these incidents, not just at Southern but elsewhere, they seem to be the freshmen and sophomores at the school, and of course over the last 2 years these freshmen and sophomores would have been 7th or 8th graders during a year where they would not be in were having their teaching and learning disrupted, may not have been in school, and now coming back into a high school setting. It concerns me that the younger students in high school are creating all this havoc, and not just and this is of course is only a minority of those students, but nevertheless serious enough that we need to just get ahead of it and make sure that they understand there are consequences to their actions. So that'll be an ongoing thing. I do want to. So that's the first thing I wanted to start off with. I know this will come up later. I saw the governor's announcement yesterday for law enforcement pay raises, and I know it'll come up in our conversation, but I just wanted to address it up front that yes, an educator pay adjustment is being discussed. Here at GDOE, and of course with the administration and the Department of Administration specifically, over the past couple of years, I know that the administration had prioritized doing an educator wage study as part of its campaign platform, and then this year, Senator Nelson, in the Appropriations Act, directed us to move that forward, whether it's whether in partnership or on our own. So last week we were able to meet with the governor and her team, and there is sentiment to move ahead and get the recommendations of our staff that looks at the salaries and looks at what it'll take to bring them to market and put a proposal on the table so we can evaluate that and determine whether that's feasible to address the educators. I mean, as you know, over the last 2 years, it's been very tough to be a teacher, especially for those who are fearful of COVID-19, those who've had to deal with the switch to distance learning, and all the additional responsibilities that come along with that. And then even today, just dealing with with this shortage, we're starting to see the disruption of the quarantine and isolation protocols and so forth. So it's been a very taxing year, and so I think this pay review and pay adjustment we'll try to complete that so we can let the community know what the recommendation is, and hopefully we can do that this month because we're in our budget preparation period and we need to finalize the budget for GDOE. So if there is any adjustment that needs to be made, we want to make sure that it is included in our budget request so that the legislature can understand what's being proposed.
John, could you just clarify who and how much are we talking about?
So we're talking about everyone on the educator pay scale, which means all of our, I guess our classroom teachers. Our teachers include, not just the classroom teachers, but librarians, school counselors, and so forth. It also includes school administration. So assistant principals and principals are also included in that pay scale. The school nurses were taken care of with the nurses pay raise that took place late last year. So they will not be included in this review. But right now, this is mostly your teaching, your faculty positions, teachers and administrators in the department.
And the timeline on this, did you say this month?
Well, we're hoping to get at least an estimated a number and have that done by the end of January when we make the board is going to need to approve a budget to propose to the legislature and submit to the legislature by the end of January. So we're going to try to at least do an initial estimate and provide a basis for that. And there might be some refinement and tweaking, after the fact, but at least when we go to the legislature, we wanted that number to be included. So right now, I don't have anything further to share on that, except that we are having our staff kind of work through a briefing for us and give us a range of options to look at and really a basis for the adjustment so that we can, of course, explain it and have a rational approach to this. And then, of course, when that number is estimated, well, we want to include that in our budget. Our budget work sessions actually for the board begin on Friday and then through next week. And then by I believe the 28th is the special board meeting where we will address the budget and finalize that proposal to the legislature.
I told you guys the teachers were next. Did we just talk about that? So, all right. But John, this is something that the governor can't do through an executive order, right?
So, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we're a separate agency, and I'm not sure if she can do it through an executive order or not. But in our conversation, this has been an ongoing conversation because I know that this was part of the, her platform when they came on, and of course the pandemic hit, and we were trying to, make room to address the educators along the way. So I think the fact that the nurses were taken care of and law enforcement were taken care of, that she wanted to make sure that she took stock of where the teachers' pay adjustments were, so we could make sure to address that and not have the educators wait, unnecessarily if there are recommendations that need to be made and figure out how we pay for it, how we implement it, so that it's at least addresses the concerns and helps us with retaining our teachers and hopefully recruiting more to join us.
Did you say like a percentage of a raise, or even there yet?
Yeah, not there yet. And of course, don't want to go out there until we're ready because once you start, any change.
What's that? He said 25% increase for teachers.
Right. It's a no-win situation.
Yeah, right,
So yeah, we want to make sure we're careful on how that goes. But we'll maybe that's the time frame is the next week and a half. We should have an estimate of what we think it'll take.
John, we did, of course, the comments are coming in, and I'm pretty sure, I'm surprised we didn't talk about this first. Michelle comments, I'm sorry, fights are not high in my areas of concern right now. What about the high cases? What are your plans for schools considering the high cases? And we're just hearing anecdotally, John, from just a bunch of teacher friends about staff and faculty shortages, because obviously there's so many people who are not only positive, but who are close contact and having to isolate and quarantine. So just that whole subject, if you could.
Yeah, so that's been a challenge for the last week and a half, and so one of the challenges is that this wave looks completely different from the last wave. I mean, it's the same virus, different variant, but I have a chart that kind of tracks us through COVID, since it began, and this one is off the charts in terms of the number of cases that you see. I'm very pleased and optimistic and hopeful that the information that I think public health is relying on from other jurisdictions, I hope that holds true in terms of less severity and less, lower, shorter hospitalization stays and less, a lower number of severe consequences. Because if that's the case, that's the only thing I think that can explain this rapidly evolving guidance that we're receiving, not just from public health, but CDC. And so right now our team has been working to make sense of the latest guidance and where it's headed. We still have our protocols in place at the schools, but right now, we just we reviewed the latest guidance from public health, which doesn't require a clearance form to return to work, return to school. That's in our protocols, and we now need to discuss whether or not to remove that, because that does then give us less of a opportunity to get that documentation. But also, we don't necessarily want the delays in receiving that documentation for our employees. So we're trying to balance the need to keep our schools in operation with what the guidance is saying. If you look at the latest guidance on students from CDC, they're saying that if your students are have the primary vaccination series, then consider not quarantining them if they are positive, or if they are close contacts actually. And so that would fundamentally change how we're dealing with students today. So right now we're kind of in the middle of it. What we've done as an interim measure is we're deploying our staff from the central offices to assist schools with coverage. So every morning we're getting the reports from schools on their staffing needs and are deploying central office staff to assist. But this can't go on forever. So we are reviewing the guidance with our chief nurse, including the latest guidance, and we want to see if there's any changes that need to occur. We're trying to balance, of course, the safety at schools with the need to continue to ensure that we have adequate staff for operations.
Right.
So it's a tough one, because the guidance that came out starting in December, beginning of January, not just public health, but we're talking about CDC level, I think is confusing all around, and the kind of mixed messages, not many mixed messages, but again, it's not as straightforward as you would think. Every scenario, you have to determine whether they're vaccinated, unvaccinated, got a booster, didn't get a booster, or ongoing exposure, or the no exposure, and then implement the protocols, and there's slightly different all the way around. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a challenge to do when you're trying to implement across 41 schools, 4,000 employees, and 26,000 kids. So we're trying to do the best we can. We're hoping that the forecast that this will come and go quickly will come true. But again, we're in different territory, new territory, right? Once more.
Yeah, this variant, John, obviously you're right. It's off the charts, and in some ways, outside of like the we're not seeing the crazy hospitalizations, but this impact of the staff shortages. And I'll just go back to, we know, one business is just shut down they said that we can't continue this week. Sorry, maybe next week. Restaurants, people are sick, close contacts can't open, right? So there's that price tag with this variant. And the only silver lining I can think of, and it's a little early for me, it's a little early in the game to just really hang our hat on this, less severity thing, because when you do look at the national reports, it's hit or miss. Some places are like peak hospitalizations, right? And so you just never know what to expect. But I do know that guidance or whatever, when parents wake up and they see 637 cases, the anxiety it's going to be there, right? And so I guess what would you say?
Well, I have to tell you, it's exactly, and I understand completely. I understand, where the decision to scrap the CAR score, why that was made, because at some point you're looking at cases, the number of cases, as your primary indicator, and that when you see the rising cases, it's going to translate into this number of hospitalizations and deaths and so forth. And apparently, I guess that's not the connection they're seeing, and so I understand why they might have made that decision. But for us, we have our dashboard that we're still reporting out, and we know that it creates anxiety because it doesn't fully explain the differences that might be occurring in this situation compared to Delta. So it's a tough one. We're really just wanting to make sure that that we have good public health guidance as much as possible. But this particular past 4 to 6 weeks, I'm not criticizing the local side. I'm just saying that even on the national level, it's been very difficult to decipher, and that's really, I think, made it a challenge nationally to figure out how to address school districts, openings, closures. You'll see a whole host of examples across the country. Some schools shut down, some decided, business as usual. The only thing that I think really is comforting to us is that we've continued with universal masking, which seems to be a consistent recommendation. We've done high levels of vaccination rates. So when I see peak hospitalizations and we see those peak numbers of ICU cases, they are happening in states that I also know haven't made as much progress as we have on Guam. So it's, again, we're still learning. It's new territory, and we're going to do our best to just make sure that we can stay safe, but we do want to keep our kids in school as much as possible.
Right. John, did have a comment here from Lonnie. With cloth masks, there's new guidance on the masks. With cloth masks, so they're telling us they're not safe. Is GDOE going to help provide the proper mask mentioned in guidance for the students?
Like I said, those masks, so there is discussion internally about moving to N95 masks and assessing that. I heard there's a discussion about this issue over the last week, at the national level, and the guidance isn't as a hard line as it was before, and so now they're saying N95 masks, but if you put a surgical mask and a cloth mask together, that works, and any mask is better than no mask. I mean, it gives us a wide range of things to consider. And it's hard. I mean, I think they're trying to provide flexibility for the community, but for someone like, for us, when you say this is recommended and this is required, it's really, not an easy thing to decipher whether something is optional when they say it's recommended. Is it really optional? Is it going to compromise safety, or is it something that we can safely, forego and stick with the requirements? So unfortunately, it's, we have a whole team that works on this to try to decipher and give proper. And we don't want to be in a situation where we're giving, one guidance and then changing it the next day and the next week. I think that'll be even worse. So we're sticking with what we have in place, but we are looking at adjusting it depending on, how the numbers work and how the guidance evolves.
I think,
just for the person who wrote in, I mean, just so you know, we are monitoring school staffing levels. We are, again, providing central office employees to assist where possible, trying to push as many and repurpose as many federally funded support staff available to support those schools. We did let the administrators know that if they get to a critical situation, there is a risk assessment framework in place that if they get to a point where they don't believe they're able to operate safely, that then gets to another level where they bring that to my attention, and that brings the potential to close down, or partially close down a school if it gets to that point. So it's not an impossibility, and hopefully we don't get there, but it's gonna, when we're trying to monitor and support the schools as much as we can right now.
Wow, that's kind of huge. So in the event you do got to do like a partial shutdown, I mean, what plans do you have in place, and how close would you think we are? Because things are happening so fast. Like Monday I had a shoot at a restaurant. Yesterday they're like, oh, we're just gonna close. We can't. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the tough part. So our administrators are working hard to sustain operations. Their biggest challenge is, of course, maintaining adequate numbers of faculty and staff. Through the midst of this all, we've tried to make sure that we're adjusting to the most recent public health guidance, which does help us provide relief, to the schools by, making, by cutting the time frame shorter than before. But at the same time, it's not an easy task when we've been short the school year, based on retirements, resignations, and other things that have, come through this COVID-19 period. So again, we do have, but again, I just want to let the public know that if it gets to that point, we're not just going to go forward and, as is without any response. If it gets to a critical point, we'll let the board know, we'll let the schools know that we need them to shut down. And, that's something that we're preparing for, but hopefully we can avoid.
John, I want to go back to the high case counts, right? And so I get it with Dr. Berg and the interview you did with Nestor is that what they're really trying to tell us is that we should focus on the hospitalizations and that the high case counts, no matter how alarming they are on the surface, aren't what they're really focusing on, right? But at what point does it become, I mean, are you looking at with your dashboard just strictly the hospitalizations? I mean, what if we get like 1,000 positives, you know?
Yeah, I mean, today what we're going to be putting out a dashboard that's going to say that over the past 7 days, we've been at a peak of 17.8% positivity rate on an average of over the last 7 days, and the number of new cases is almost at 1,600 over the last 7 days, which again is a peak from where we've been, you know, throughout the past couple of years. So, I mean, clearly that's not what public health is kind of looking at in evaluating the protocols. And so we're working with them to just make sure that, you know, as we go forward, we're willing to, you know, stay in touch and coordinate to protect the kids and our employees, but we are going to need them to be firm about their guidance when it comes down to that, because at this point it does seem that, you know, the lower number of hospitalizations and so forth is allowing us to continue operations as normal. But, you know, should that guidance change, or should there be a change in that I guess in that stance, we need to know right away, because, you know, we're relying on our public health experts to guide us through this. I appreciate the flexibility that's been given, but when it comes down to a health emergency, or, you know, then when it comes down to compromising health, that really has to be done with the firm leadership and guidance from the public health experts. We're going to do our best, but you know, again, that's going to really rely on them giving us the latest information and, you know, making some determinations on their end as well, if our protocols are not up to par with what they see as needed during this time of emergency.
Yeah, people are commenting that you're not answering the question, but let me just kind of like correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is that basically we're in uncharted territory where, you know, the high case counts, I mean, we've been trained over the last couple of years to just pay attention to that metric, how many positives we have, and that's not the focus of the CDC or public health. And so basically you're just keeping an eye on it.
I'll answer the question.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I mean, based on the numbers and based on what we're seeing, I'm following very closely what the public health experts are guiding us or in how they're guiding us. And based on CDC and public health guidance, as it's evolved to this point, it actually provides a more flexible approach to responding to the high number of cases. And what I mean by that is, in the midst of Omicron, what the CDC is recommending is shorter quarantine periods, exemptions for healthcare workers. If you're a student who's masked within 3 to 6 feet of an infected person who's also masked, you're not a close contact, you can stay in school. And that if you're a student who's received your primary series of vaccination, then you may not even need to quarantine. So the situation with Omicron, if you're looking at the chart, looks like it's a much worse situation from an apples to apples comparison with where we were with Delta in terms of the numbers of new cases. But the guidance that's out there, which I think is creating this anxiety, the guidance out there really is more along the lines of saying that we're kind of out of the more serious phases of COVID-19 and that we can continue to operate. So that's the reason we're keeping schools open. We do think that it is important that kids go to school 5 days a week if we can do so safely. Public health is saying we can do it safely. CDC is saying we can do it safely. I mean, the guidance has gotten less restrictive, from the standpoint of what the public health experts are saying. So the question is, what are we doing? Are there any changes? What we're saying is we are following the guidance, which allows us, in fact, it has moved in the direction of being able to continue operations, with less quarantine period, with less restrictive measures in place. So I think the only thing I'm saying is that we're going to follow that guidance. If our public health experts, see information, see research, see data that says, hey, well, go the other way, they need to let us know, because what we're doing is we're relying on their guidance and making decisions based on public health expertise. So I hope that answers the question. That, we're not at this point contemplating any more restrictive measures than are currently being provided by public health. I think the only concern that we have that could affect operations is the issue that you brought up, Chris, which was if staffing becomes affected because of quarantine and isolation, and we don't have enough teachers and staff at school, will that affect our decisions to keep schools in operation? Yes, that is a key factor. And for now, we have an interim measure of support that we're providing. But if it does get worse, and some schools call in and report that they are just they are at a point where they cannot safely operate in terms of supervision, in terms of being in the classroom to supervise and teach kids. At that point, we will consider those schools needing to close temporarily. But we're not at that point yet, and that would be due to an operational issue that could be impacted by COVID, but really is an issue of not having enough employees at the school to operate safely and supervise our students.
Yeah, that's so interesting, John, that it would be operational and staffing issues that would shut the schools down, not necessarily the virus itself. It's like
I understand it. It's kind of it is, because I think I'm the same way. As I read the guidance, I'm waiting for Omicron to come and then CDC to say, hey, now we need to shut everything down and do this and do that. And when you pay close attention to the guidance, it's giving you less restrictive measures. So Omicron's here, but you don't need to quarantine for 10 days, right?
It's confusing.
Or it's confusing to most people, and we're trying to make sense of it and take the most conservative view that we can, so that we can safely operate. But I don't think that anybody can say that it's really clear cut. Given what the numbers look like.
I mean, there's been criticism that they're changing the guidance to kind of accommodate a lot of the shortages with staffing, right?
Well, I've heard some of that at the national level, where they said things like, well, we're putting in recommendations that we hope people can tolerate. And I don't know that that's necessarily the metric that they should be using, but again, we're trying to figure out who to rely on. So Dr. Hoa says still rely on CDC. I'm still doing that. Dr. Berg, is influencing public health. So we're following public health. But again, all in all, they're going towards a less restrictive environment. At the same time, these numbers are popping. So I can understand your audience saying, what's happening? The numbers have tripled, and and the guidance is getting more relaxed. That's what we're seeing here too.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it works out in the end. John, but I want to go back to the staffing, just specifically with the Southern High fight video. I mean, I watched it just outside looking in. Was any of the video, did you see a staffing issue there where maybe there weren't as many staff around as you would like, or because I know it's just a snapshot?
Yeah, no, there wasn't an issue. This is the administrator is really charged with handling the situation, and the concerns there, just with Southern, were not really related to staff issues or staff shortages.
It's a layout.
This has been something kind of, I think, bubbling up over the last week, and the staff have been working to de-escalate it. Hearing things that might, disagreements and so forth, and so ultimately. Their efforts to de-escalate it, were not effective in the sense that they actually did anticipate, the actual altercation between those individuals. They were working very closely with others to try to de-escalate it and get them back on a positive track. So there are things that they can do at Southern to address the situation in terms of, starting to stagger lunch, staggering the periods in which kids are outside, in the hallways, and they definitely are looking at that measure. I don't know if they've implemented it, but the administrators can do that in an effort, and we've discussed that in an effort to lower the number of kids they're still investigating it and looking into the dynamics. But I think the first impression is that clearly, that these have some basis in the villages. So, I mean, I think you probably understand that. So, they are looking at more like village identification of groups who have been involved and are trying to continue to work with those kids to make sure that they, that this doesn't happen again. There's no retaliation and so forth.
John,
so it's a tough job there, but we're asking for continued support from GPD and others to just help us get as much intelligence as we can, so we can move forward and make sure that this doesn't happen again.
John, did you know anything about Dodea on a pause? I'm sorry, I just saw something in the comments. I don't know if you'd heard about that.
On a pause on what?
I don't know. No, you haven't. Got it.
Well, I did. I think I did hear something about sports. Might be on pause.
Okay.
But I don't have nothing officially. I did hear that just out there in the community, and people are asking about our sports. So at this point we haven't changed operations. But again, when teams, if a team is affected, they will typically go into again with quarantine and everything, they may forego practices and so forth as a response. And so we've seen that at certain schools, if an athlete is one of the cases, that might affect the rescheduling of practices and who's able to join. So it is having an impact, but nothing, no change in the schedules or no shutdown across the board for us.
Got it. Thank you, John. Anything else in closing?
No, like I said, you hope for a slow week, but it never is. So we look forward to seeing you next week and hopefully give you more updates on what we're doing.
Spring break, it might be a little slow, John.
I don't count on it.
There you go. John Fernandez, GDOE Superintendent, 917. We got to take a break. We're coming back with the KUAM Podcast Network. We got Kate Baltazar Dodge with a new episode of One with Grief. That's on the way. We're brought to you by Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, ITNE, and Jack in the Box. Good morning.
We know you're tired of hearing about COVID-19. Some of you are probably wondering whether this is ever going to end. However long it takes, we all have to do our part, including our children, to hold the line. You can protect yourself and your family by getting vaccinated.
And if you're already vaccinated, don't let your guard down, because you can still give and get COVID-19. And if you're not vaccinated, remember that if you catch the virus, you could suffer more severe complications. At the end of the day, it's the choices we make to protect ourselves, our families, and our community that will control the spread.
We know it sounds repetitive at this point, but again, wash your hands, watch your distance, and wear your mask.
Together, we have to hold the line.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutters, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Mariana's Irrigation and Landscape Superstore.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at ITNE, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at ITNE, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Got a question about your finances? You've come to the right place. Bring all your accounts together, even those that aren't with us. and see the big picture, right down to the smallest detail. Unlock powerful tools like Insights and Money Map that help you save time and take control of your finances. When you connect accounts with the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app, it all starts with yes.
Let us know what's up on our KOM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the CNMI, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
Well, I didn't get screened because I was just afraid of it.
I procrastinated.
I didn't have any symptoms.
I didn't have insurance.
I didn't want to know.
There were several services that was available to me.
I got a mammogram.
Colonoscopy.
I know in my heart that early detection saved my life.
And I just tell people all the time, please go get screened.
The Culture Club returns to KUM Digital and KUM News Weekend Edition, highlighting Guam's young artists, activists, and crafters as they work to protect, preserve, and promote our Tamoto culture. Watch this weekly feature on the digital platforms of KUM News Weekend Edition, brought to you by Hanum, the freshest bottled water made in Guam.
Uno Mixed. We're mixing it up on the last Thursday of every month with a look at lifestyle, entertainment, food, and so much more on the stations, networks, and digital platforms of KUAM Communications. Uno Mixed is presented to you by Docomo Pacific, Better Together, and Pepsi. That's what I like.
See what's on TV tonight with schedules, network news and notes, local promotions and giveaways on KUAM Communications social media pages. Like and follow us on Facebook or Instagram now for all the latest and never miss out.
Take in the panoramic beauty of our island each Sunday on the KUM News Instagram with Scenic Sundays. Scroll through the natural beauty of the island on display. Scenic Sundays on the KUM News Instagram is brought to you by Addis Trust and Investment, Location, Service, Trust, and Häagen-Dazs Shops Guam, where every day is made extraordinary.
This season, KUAM Communications is ready to go with more games, more championships, and more sports specials guaranteed to bring out the fan in you. Don't miss a minute of gameplay from NBC on KUAM TV8 or from CBS on KUAM TV11. We're bringing you all the action and excitement brought to you locally by Marianas Irrigation and Landscape and Docomo Pacific.
Join KUAM every Wednesday on Primetime for Inside Business. It's our new weekly segment featuring the struggle of Guam's businesses during this global pandemic. We'll hear from industry leaders about the difficult decisions they were forced to make to implement cutoffs, layoffs, and shorten hours just to survive. It's the other side effect of COVID, the island's economic crisis. We'll also feature new businesses that managed to open and thrive during these challenging times. It's Inside Business every Wednesday on KUAM News Primetime.
Shining example of that. Kate, with your podcast, One with Grief and everything like that, it's done so well. It's reached so many people, and it's really connected with so many people. And addressing a topic which is obviously very, very personal, very subjective, very dark for a lot of people. A lot of people like myself would have to return to what in a lot of ways is like the worst day of your life and everything like that. But I mean, it's been unbelievably therapeutic, and the service you've been able to provide to the community through this podcast is immeasurable. So thank you.
Top of the day, Team Link. It's always a pleasure to be here. I really want to extend my just from the bottom of my heart, thank you to the KUAM Podcast Network for giving us a space to talk about these uncomfortable things. This is not easy to talk about. It's felt by everyone, experienced by literally everyone. But having a safe space to be able to talk about it, you guys providing that is just, it's immeasurable, the help that. So thank you. I love being your partners in this.
Absolutely. I mean, this show wouldn't be the success that it is, certainly, if it wasn't for you. So, we are always in your debt. And I want to ask before, again, we're going to get into like this episode and everything like that, but we're going through here. And, this, not only is this a family-run company and everything like that, but we literally refer to each other as like family members, and we believe that with all of our hearts, right? So I know Sabrina lost her father recently. Very, very tough, obviously, and with COVID on top of that, and logistical issues and everything like that. We're kind of going through, our own crises, like as individuals, but as a family, like in grief, and we want to be there for her, and we've tried as much as we've been able to, and at the same time give her space and everything like that. So can you talk about like the grief that coworkers, family members, associates, friends, like that is a form of grief in and of itself as well, right?
Yes. Sabrina, if you're listening, know that you're in my heart every day. I did send her a note when I heard the news.
Thank you.
I've known you guys for a really long time, so I know the dynamic that is among you, that it's more of a family dynamic as it is a professional one. What you're experiencing is absolutely completely normal. Especially when you've spent a lot of time together, you consider, the parents of your coworkers like aunties and uncles, and may have even mentored with them. And so you go along this journey with them. So naturally, when there's a death, when someone dies, it's absolutely normal for you, even though that wasn't your dad, to feel grief. That is absolutely normal. So secondary grief is very, very normal. And it carries a lot of the same things. It's almost like your parent passed away, in a sense, or if you were closer to, say, a friend's dad, than more than your own parents. That happens too, when you really have that relationship with them. So absolutely, what you're feeling is normal and natural. It's interesting what you brought up, Jason, because in this episode we talk about resolutions, right? And we often make a lot of physical resolutions about our physical health, right? We want to eat better, we want to exercise more, we want to do better at work, we want to be better parents, and sort of all these external things, but we don't make resolutions about our mental health. And that's just what happens.
I don't know anyone that said that, like on December 31st, where they said, like, I'm gonna get my mental, all squared away and everything like that. It's like I'm gonna stop smoking. I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna run more. But they never just said, okay, I'm gonna get the gray matter all locked in. I didn't hear anybody do that.
Exactly. Or I'm gonna get my heart in check. And and so emotions are in your heart. So what happens is, and in this episode, you'll get to, it's part one, so it's two parts. So in this first part, you're kind of walked through some things that can kickstart your emotional resolutions. And I preface it too as saying, if you had resolutions last year that you didn't quite complete or get to, that's okay. And then if you kickstart these emotional resolutions in 2022, and here we are, you're finding yourself still not able to do all of them, that's okay too, because we want you to pace yourself and know that your grief experience, your emotional experience is absolutely your own. And so this episode focused on that. I think it's the first 5 or 6. And for those around, I think in the holiday one, I touched a little bit on those around us who are grieving, and we don't really know, how to deal with, it's like you said, we want to be there for her, we want to love on her, Sabrina.
This is my best friend going through something really, really hard, and like if anything or anybody ever was even remotely like threatening to her and everything like that, I'm the first guy up. I'm like, okay, let me know what I can do to help, to take care of you, to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And one of those things to get your emotional health in order is that if you are grieving, accept the help. Give those around you the opportunity to be there for you emotionally, maybe bring you dinner, maybe just hold your hand in silence while you grieve. That's okay. But whatever your needs are, communicate them. And then likewise for those who are dealing with someone who is grieving, communicate. Don't assume anything. Don't assume that she doesn't want anyone around or don't assume the griever wants to be left alone, because that's what happens. Grievers tend to isolate, right?
At the same time, though, I don't want to be too clingy, and I don't want to be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And and wind up, making the situation worse. And I don't know how to find that comfortable balance between the two poles, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have sessions, and y'all guys need to call me, and I will come in. I will literally come in, and absolutely for you guys, my KUAM family, I'm going to do this like totally pro bono. I'll come in there and give a short 30-minute talk to everyone on the staff if you want.
Thank you.
And we do this for employers all the time.
And this is literally what your podcast is too. So we're nobody special. I mean, all you can do is just play Kate's podcast and put it on loop, put it on replay.
Yes. Well, you guys are very special to me. And Darlene Garcia, she does, having an HR background of over 2 decades, she does a lot of grief in the workplace. That's like it's her thing. We just go in there. It's part of what we do as part of our community outreach. We go into companies who have experienced the death of a coworker or of someone very close to them. And we do that talk, and we kind of go over it with you guys. And one of those tenets is absolutely communicate with the griever, and say, what are your needs? Do you need us? And the needs change, because maybe today she feels like, I really just want to be. And then tomorrow she won't know how to say, come over everyone and group hug and let's eat fried chicken and watch Netflix together, or whatever. So whatever like the needs are, just keep the lines of communication open all the time. Do not allow her to isolate. Do not allow grievers to isolate, because even though they're like, leave me alone, I'm sad, But so this part one of that is kind of, it folds that in very nicely.
Yeah, Kate, if I may, man, I wish I had this information, like so much earlier, because and there have been, several members of our staff who have lost. I can think of it like at least 2 who've lost a parent, like in recent years. And the first thing I was able to do, and this was after I lost my dad 4 years ago, and I said, if I may, I tried to use empathy, and I just said, this is what you're probably going to go through emotionally. Your journey is your own, but at the same time, here's what I went through. If this would help you in any way, you're stronger than you know. Here's what you probably have to do, and here's what here's the steps that you're going to have to face, and everything like that. And that seemed to be of use to my coworkers.
Absolutely, you want them to grieve at their own pace. If they are feeling like they're strong today, let them be. And if tomorrow they're feeling a little bit more emotionally vulnerable, and that's okay too. However, which way their journey is leading them. I would say the myths of grief, which I go over extensively in the first 4 episodes, are sometimes we just say the wrong thing, because we don't know, and I didn't know this before I delved into this field, but absolutely keep those lines of communication open. Okay, and then it also speaks to the griever. It also speaks to the griever.
And this is the beauty of your podcast, because it is a series, and you do take someone through the entire range of and they say, what is it, a 12-step process, and the key thing is not everybody goes through all 12 steps in the same order. Most people don't even go through all 12 steps themselves. I mean, so it's completely unique to everybody, but there are these commonalities that we all have.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so with that, can you give us a throw to your teaser of episode 6? What's this about, and what can people expect to take away from it?
Yeah, so as we were mentioning earlier, we make a lot of resolutions around that center on physical health. but we don't really talk about our mental health or emotional health. So in this this kind of segs into that as to why you need to listen to this podcast, because if you haven't made any emotional resolutions, yeah, you probably should.
All right. Well, we're only 19 days into January, but it's never too late to get started. So here is a snippet from episode 6 of One with Grief with Kate Baltazar Judge about making that resolution.
It's the new year, so we make all sorts of resolutions, right? Like we're going to lose weight, we're going to do better at work, we want to be better parents, but rarely do we make resolutions about grief or our emotional health. And in this podcast episode, and likely in the next one, I want to take a little bit of time to kind of walk you through these resolutions, these emotional resolutions about grief. And when I say resolution, again, it's not something that has to be completed in this year, or resolutions that weren't completed from last year indicate failure. These are ongoing things and reminders to yourself that we're all a work in progress in many ways, physically, emotionally, professionally, in our relationships with the people around us, as coworkers, and even our relationship with ourselves.
Kate, the tenor of your voice is so calming and so soothing and so trustworthy, and I think that is part of the process and everything. And you're taking us through the process itself. And as they say, it's very cliche, but trust the process. Correct?
Absolutely, and you have to. It's like they say, getting together with someone who can help you through this, and not going at it alone. Taking action is half the battle. It really is. And a lot of people fear that because, like you said, I don't want to go back to that day. I don't want to go back to that time. But you don't want to go back to it, but little do you know, you're carrying it around every single day.
Right.
And it's seeping out into all of your relationships, and everything that you do every day it has a tinge of these emotional things that we carry around.
Okay, so the big takeaway from this is, just be there for someone when they're going through things. Secondary grief is a thing. It is very, very real. We certainly are going through it right now.
It is real.
And I guess maybe tertiarily, you're actually helping us out in a mighty way by helping us understand what we're going through and how we can be there for our sister Sabrina.
Absolutely. We love you, Sabrina. I'm thinking about you, and if you guys need me to come in, I'm there for you.
Thanks, Kate. I can't wait till we can interview you again face to face. That's things are a little bit dicey these days and everything like that, but we'll get there someday. And certainly with your help, we know we're going to get there. So thank you, Kate. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Jason, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you, Kate. 9:38. We're going to take a quick break right here on the link. Good morning.
The KUAM Podcast Network is back and on demand, featuring a great variety of podcasts from our island and region, including culture, lifestyle, awareness, crime, politics, commentary, comedy, and entertainment. Available on most streaming platforms. The KUAM Podcast Network. Subscribe and listen now.
I didn't get screened because I was just afraid of it.
I procrastinated.
I didn't have any symptoms.
I didn't have insurance.
I didn't want to know.
There were several services that was available to me.
I got a mammogram.
Colonoscopy.
I know in my heart that early detection saved my life.
And I just tell people all the time, please go get screened.
Listen, watch, and learn from the daily Chamorro News updates from KUAM News. Catch them on the link during the 8 o'clock hour, streaming online on Isla Radio, or on the KUAM News YouTube channel for your convenience. Tune in and stay informed, all while preserving our precious culture through the daily use of our native Chamorro language. Chamorro News updates are brought to you by your familia at First Hawaiian Bank.
The world of television is more exciting than ever. Don't miss a minute of special presentations from NBC on KUAM TV8 or from CBS on KUAM TV11. Every month, we'll bring you the fun and excitement of award shows and red carpet moments, special series presentations, and other great network programs. Brought to you locally by King's Restaurant, Ruby Tuesday Guam, and Docomo Pacific, giving you more reasons to tune in and turn on. Fall in love with TV again with the best from KUAM Communications.
We know you're tired of hearing about COVID-19. Some of you are probably wondering whether this is ever going to end. However long it takes, we all have to do our part, including our children, to hold the line. You can protect yourself and your family by getting vaccinated.
And if you're already vaccinated, don't let your guard down because you can still give and get COVID-19. And if you're not vaccinated, remember that if you catch the virus, you could suffer more severe complications. At the end of the day, it's the choices we make to protect ourselves, our families, and our community that will control the spread.
We know it sounds repetitive at this point, but again, wash your hands, watch your distance, and wear your mask.
Together, we have to hold the line.
See what's on TV tonight with schedules, network news and notes, local promotions and giveaways on KUAM Communications social media pages. Like and follow us on Facebook or Instagram now for all the latest and never miss out.
Let us know what's up on our KOM News WhatsApp tip line at 671-727-0094. Share information about what's happening in your town, on Guam or the Sinamai, and what you want us to know. Reach us on WhatsApp at 671-727-0094.
Join KUAM every Wednesday on Primetime for Inside Business. It's our new weekly segment featuring the struggle of Guam's businesses during this global pandemic. We'll hear from industry leaders about the difficult decisions they were forced to make to implement cutoffs, layoffs, and shorten hours just to survive. It's the other side effect of COVID, the island's economic crisis. We'll also feature new businesses that managed to open and thrive during these challenging times. It's Inside Business every Wednesday on KUAM News Primetime.
KUAM's multi-platform morning show, The Link, just got a little more delicious with Feed Me Fridays. Chris, Sabrina, Jason, and the rest of the morning crew will take some time off each Friday to talk, taste, and tempt you with all the latest and greatest food and drinks on Guam. Old faves, new hits, and everything else we can put in our bellies. It's Feed Me Fridays on The Link, brought to you by King's Restaurant, Ruby Tuesday Guam, and Devondale. Real milk from free grazing cows. This season, KUAM Communications is ready to go with more games, more championships, and more sports specials guaranteed to bring out the fan in you. Don't miss a minute of gameplay from NBC on KUAM TV8 or from CBS on KUAM TV11. We're bringing you all the action and excitement brought to you locally by Marianas Irrigation and Landscape and Docomo Pacific.
Uno Mixed. We're mixing it up on the last Thursday of every month with a look at lifestyle, entertainment, food, and so much more on the stations, networks, and digital platforms of KUAM Communications. Uno Mixed is presented to you by Docomo Pacific, Better Together, and Pepsi. That's what I like.
Stronger and stronger for you, so girl, if you only knew how much this heart of mine's beating for you. Will you ever know my love grows stronger and stronger for you? So check it out. I care not to say that I love you. Yeah, there is no other girl to challenge you. No, no way. See, I don't place you among the rest. Oh, me, you are the very best. You bring the light in my eyes, the sun.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We're going to end the show and get near the end of the show as we head towards the 10 o'clock hour, bringing you some positivity, good things that you can do for our community, and we have the perfect person to usher us into that. Someone who I have literally known forever and a day, Sean Wegner at the UOG Endowment Foundation. Sean, good morning and half a day to you. So good to see you.
Good morning, half a day. Thank you guys for having me today on the link. It's wonderful to have KUAM, a huge supporter for the Endowment Foundation. I'm just so happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, you guys are doing really, really good work over there, and probably even more impressively is you guys find creative ways and very innovative ways, I would say too, to make sure that the people can give back to their university and maintain the mission.
Well, that's the thing. With COVID going on, a lot of the traditional fundraising methods that the UOG Endowment Foundation would use is not available to us. So what we're doing now is we're giving opportunities, obviously, for donors as yourselves to support the university. We are a nonprofit 501c3, so it's a total tax write-off when you do this. But what we are introducing is the Lina Lata musical extravaganza, and it's going to be aired on KUAM. It's a 3-part TV series that we're going to be doing. And what we're doing right now is just kind of pushing for sponsorship. So this is our main fundraiser right now. Praying COVID doesn't get any worse, and we're going to be able to do in-person things later. But online TV series is definitely COVID safe. And with partners such as KUAM, we are so fortunate to be able to bring this to the community. So we're very, very happy that you're allowing us to do this. And thank you so much again for
Okay, now I do want to hold your feet to the fire, if I may, Sean, and everything, because whenever you talk about the University of Guam and then music in any context, you're thinking of the Laddie-Tones, you're thinking of UOG's long history with the amazing work that the choir does. You're talking about Dr. Randy Johnson and the generations of Guamanians that he's been able to foster and really encourage to really tap that musical gift inside of everyone and everything. So there is a very, very strong legacy when it comes to UOG and music. So how do you kind of work that in and kind of live up to that tradition?
Well, sure. So we're actually using footage from, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Lina Lata 2014-2015 concert series that were held at the University Fieldhouse, the University Cabell Fieldhouse. And what it is there's some unseen footage that we're going to be airing on TV. There was a lot of interviews that couldn't get put into. Yeah. So it's going to be a very, very cool adaptation. We're going to have a couple of new hosts that are going to kind of bring you through the years with Chamorro music through the history. So it's actually also going to be educational, not just music. So we have people like Johnny Sublime. We have, and regretfully, Jimmy D is no longer with us, but he's on there with my aunt, Flora Bazaquan.
Yes.
So a lot of the pioneers.
Hagu's got to be in there somewhere.
Right?
That is the unofficial 11th commandment. At some gathering, Hagu must be sung or played or played.
If it is about Chamorro music,
exactly.
Right? If it's about Chamorro music, then it has to have these pioneers and stuff. And then the third, actually, so it's a 3-part TV series. And then the third one, we're looking at bringing in the newer artists today, seeing how they were inspired by the pioneers. So it's kind of a history. We're hoping that we can eventually get it incorporated into the teaching of music history on Guam kind of thing. So we're working towards something like that. So it's definitely entertaining, definitely educational. And then all the profits that we're getting from this is obviously going to go towards scholarship programs and the Capitol buildings or whatever have you. The cool thing about the University of Guam Endowment Foundation is because we have different programs for the university, anyone that donates, you can actually choose where you want your monies to go to. So even though we're having a particular fundraiser for Lina Lata, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to a music program. You can actually dictate where you want those funds to go, even specifically for that. But then your name gets on the billboards and all that stuff, and on the ads and on TV.
Oh, very cool. So you directly have a chance to, like I said, help you, and that is actually cool, because if you say I really want to do what I can, because of the crazy situation we've been in for the last 2 years and everything like that, to really strengthen UOG's nursing school. I mean, they're top notch already, but if I can do anything, and I want my funds and my donation to be directly go towards that, or, you know, I want to kick a few bucks over to the Marine Lab or, you know, the literature program or anything like that. Like, that is so cool how you give people the chance to say, I'm not only making a donation, I'm going to direct that to where I want it to go.
Right. So, you know, if you have a passion for people in civil engineering, or if you have a passion for people in the nursing, like you say, or health or business, so we have areas that you can definitely go ahead and tell us where you want it to go. And there's different programs you can support. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, we always look at this, it's be all end all. Basically, when you donate to the UOG Endowment Foundation, and I get this from our executive director, Katrina Parrish, she says it's kind of, you help a stranger. Where we gave out over $140,000 in 2020, 2021 in scholarships. Mm-hmm. That's a lot, considering it's like, what, $6,000. That's almost, you know, like depending on the scholarship, that could pay for the whole year for a lot of these students. So it's really good programs that we put out there, and, you know, these opportunities that we're trying to provide to people, even though it's during these COVID times, we're hoping that we're able to get a lot of the sponsorship. We all have, you know, a lot of us have been hit hard by COVID. We're still feeling the blows, you know, but there's a lot of folks, companies out there that did really well during COVID. We're hoping to get those kind of guys to help sponsor us for this Vina Lata.
Well, Sean, if I may be so honored as an alumni and everything, I got some bills right here. So I'm gonna make my donation directly to the College of Business and Public Administration. Where's my accounting majors at? Because if I give $100 to them, you know they know how to stretch a few bucks.
There you go.
There you go.
And you know how you
support
can do that
UOG accountants. Those guys are awesome. They got me through undergraduate.
Right? How funny you should mention that, because we just brought in some visiting professors with the Guam Board of Accountancy and the SBPA, so School of Business and Public Administration. Mm-hmm. They have a standing coordination that they do, and so there's a couple of professors in here teaching accounting classes for about 5 months that they'll be here from off island.
And certainly that is just one
of
programs
like that.
Dozens and dozens of ways that you can help your university. But, you know, as for the actual festivities right now, so can you let people know, like, when and where they can see the concert special with all of this new footage no one's ever seen before and everything like that? Even if you've seen it 1,000 times already, you're going to get something new out of this.
Right. Well, actually, you probably haven't seen it 1,000 times, because only the people that went to the concert were able to see it. Unless we did produce some DVDs, but we're still waiting on those being kind of sold. So this will be new to people coming on. It's going to be during Chamorro month, so that it starts on March 3rd.
Sure.
And then, so that'll be the first part of the series. It'll run on KOAM on channels TV 8, TV 11. There's the Docomo 7, TV 1, and then channel 17, GTA's channel 17. So 4 channels to see it on. KOAM.
We cannot wait for that. So again, thank you for our friends down there at the UOG Endowment Foundation and everything like that. We're proud to partner with you, and even prouder to be able to help you guys out, because, I mean, you guys are such a valued part of our community.
Yes, and thank you so much for having us on here. I just wanted to say, if you need more information, and I hope you do, you can contact us at the University of Guam Endowment Foundation at 735-2957. That's my direct line. Of course, 671 first. And then you can also email Sean, SHAWN, at uogendowment.org, or you can go on our website and you can just click on give.uog.edu and donate that way.
Outstanding. So, Sean, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Please stay safe.
Thank you. You too as well. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
That is good stuff about our island coming up and everything like that. And, you know, we want to give you a little bit more island music, and stay tuned, because when the link concludes, we're going to show you some local music with Cover Me. We got our buddy Fluff coming up. That's after the break.
Buenas and Hafadi. Part of taking care of yourself is participating in cancer screening. Make it a point to see your doctor at least once a year for an annual visit to discuss your risk and to determine which tests are right for you. Many tests are free or covered by insurance, and there may be programs to help those who don't have insurance. Cancer screening can save your life. There are screening tests that can catch cancer early when it may be easier to treat. So learn more at cancer.org/getscreened.
KUAM's multi-platform morning show, The Link, just got a little more delicious with Feed Me Fridays. Chris, Sabrina, Jason, and the rest of the morning crew will take some time off each Friday to talk, taste, and tempt you with all the latest and greatest food and drinks on Guam. Old faves, new hits, and everything else we can put in our bellies. It's Feed Me Fridays on The Link. Brought to you by King's Restaurants, Ruby Tuesday Guam, and Devondale. Real milk from free grazing cows.
Join KUAM every Wednesday on Primetime for Inside Business. It's our new weekly segment featuring the struggle of Guam's businesses during this global pandemic. We'll hear from industry leaders about the difficult decisions they were forced to make to implement cutoffs, layoffs, and shorten hours just to survive. It's the other side effect of COVID, the island's economic crisis. We'll also feature new businesses that managed to open and thrive during these challenging times. It's Inside Business every Wednesday on KUAM News Primetime.
The relationship between Guam and Manila, Philippines is undeniable as we share similar cultural traditions, history, and heritage. With generations of Filipinos calling Guam home, KUAM presents a monthly look at the capital city featuring in-depth and engaging interviews on everything from medical tourism to new business and government leaders. Veteran newscaster Nestor Lecanto delivers Beyond Our Borders. This special program is brought to you by KFC and the Medical City, where patients are partners.
Marianas Irrigation and Landscape Superstore. Stop on by and visit our showroom today. We offer everyday low prices on all major outdoor power equipment like bush cutters, chainsaw, power washer, generators, and more. Need service, repair, maintenance? Well, check out Guam's best superstore only at Marianas Irrigation and Landscape, located in Barragata along Army Drive between Submarina and Besta Market. Call 735-7446 for more information. Now shipping to surrounding islands. Marianas Irrigation and Landscape Superstore.
Get the job done the right way by getting the right stuff at East West Rental Center. With years of experience helping builders, we definitely got what you need. Call 646-1463 or visit us in Upper Tumon. Open Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
Do you feel like you're missing out on something? Make life more rewarding with Pacific Points. Earn and redeem points for bill rebates and free load at IT&E, discounts on fuel at Shell, vouchers at Foodies, and United Mileage Plus miles. You can even pay with Pacific Points at IT&E, Shell, and Foodies. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Say hello to the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app. Got a question about your finances? You've come to the right place. Bring all your accounts together, even those that aren't with us, and see the big picture, right down to the smallest detail. Unlock powerful tools like Insights and Money Map that help you save time and take control of your finances. When you connect accounts with the First Hawaiian Bank mobile app, it all starts with yes.
Breeze 93.9 FM.
Hey, good morning. The show brought to you by Paradise. We are in Paradise, Guam. Yes, Pacific Points.
I mean, literally, we are sponsored by Paradise.
Yeah.
Very cleverly done.
Cabo Enterprises, ITD, and Jack in the Box. Good morning.
Word really getting around about those government N95 masks and everything. My mom's at school teaching, and she goes, "Oh, by the way, I just ordered us a set."
Nice. You can also get the COVID-19 test. It's covidtest.gov. And there's a link going around from the United States Postal Service. It is legit. You can register to receive, I believe, is it 4?
4 per household.
4 per household, 4 COVID tests. Okay, good morning, KUAM TV. We're going to do Cover Me. It's brought to you by Burger King and Docomo Pacific. Again, my good friend Fluff here with today's Cover Me. Be safe, guys. We're just going to cut out after this. T10 testing, they're doing walk-ins allegedly after 1 p.m. They might still have some openings at the Southern Public Health for testing, but remember, that only goes until noon.
Yeah.
Okay? So just be safer, actually, guys, and we'll get at you tomorrow morning. Always praying and hoping for the best. And leaving you with Cover Me, brought to you by Burger King and Docomo Pacific. Good morning and goodbye.
In the deep blue sea, Key Marianas, they are small but beautiful islands where the moon shines bright and the ocean waves are blue with its clear skies and bright sunny days. High up in the mountains we cook breadfruit. Way down in the shorelines we go fishing and swimming. Out there in the woods plenty birds are singing. Make it Marianas again. In the deep blue sea, give Marianas. They are small but beautiful islands where the moon shines bright and the ocean waves are blue with its clear skies and bright sunny days. High up in the mountains we cook breadfruit. Way down in the shorelines we go fishing and swimming. Out there in the woods plenty birds are singing. Make it Marianas again. High up in the mountains we cook breadfruit. Way down in the shorelines we go fishing and swimming. Out there in the woods plenty birds are singing. Make it Marianas again. Make it Marianas again. Make it Marianas.